The following is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated. To a wonderful football player, we say thanks for the memories. This is Total Football Talk. Welcome to Total Football Talk. Hard-hitting, gridiron action, news, and fun just the way you like it. I am one of the hosts of this program, Cole Johnson, a.k.a. the Mad Scientist and EP Extraordinaire, and I am joined, as always, by the other co-host of this program. Let me see, Mr. Commander's Grind Report, Mr. D. Willie in the evening, Mr. NRL Sports Debate, also the man who is in charge of the D. Willie Bucks, D. Willie, a.k.a. Drew Willingham. Oh, I see you with your NWO shirt. What's up?
Yeah, rocking the NWO colors this morning, getting ready for WrestleMania here in just less than a month as a fan. But hey, I'm ready to talk some football, my man. Today we have some news starting out this week that I'm looking forward to jumping right on into.
All right. Well, before we do that, let's go on an opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Great.
Now, for the last 2 weeks, we have graded two divisions in the NFL. We started with the East. We continue with the North. And today we will grade the two Southern divisions of the National Football League. We will begin with the NFC South and the Carolina Panthers. All right, well, let's set the table, shall we? So the Panthers, they drafted Bryce Young, number 1 overall. They hired and then fired Frank Reich as soon as the season went underway. And they played a few games, but then they decided, you're not the guy. You're gone. They changed their field from grass to artificial turf. And hey, there's a bright spot. Julius Peppers got elected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. There has to be a bright spot somewhere because it wasn't the team on the field at all. Your thoughts on the Panthers and the grade that you give them?
Well, based on what we had seen in seasons prior to, we didn't expect much, from this team this past year. We didn't expect them, let's just say that we didn't expect them to do what the Houston Texans did last year, which we didn't even expect the Houston Texans to do what they did. And they were up there as far as in the top of the draft picks this past season. Mm-hmm. And you saw what they did with their, top choice in the draft. Right. Well, unfortunately, Bryce Young suffered a completely different type of season than CJ Stroud did over there in Houston. And it was absolutely tough to watch. If you're a Carolina Panthers fan, this may have been one of the toughest seasons to watch. And you've had a 1-15 season in there before. And I think this was even tougher than that. And, the only difference between that season and this is you had an extra week in this season now that there's 17 games played to get that one additional win than you did in that 1-15 season. So, and in that season, I didn't grade them well. And I'm not going to grade them well here either based on how they played in all three phases of the game between offense, defense, and special teams. When I look at, basically everything you just said to lay out the blueprints for this Carolina Panthers team, I got to give them an F. I mean, the fact that the way that they played, for one, but for two, you gave up all that draft capital, including this year's number 1 overall pick the Bears have that you would have had back-to-back number 1 overall picks. Well, actually, no, you traded up for it last year. But you still had to trade up this upcoming draft to get to that one, and it didn't pay off for you. It blew back in your face. So because of that, because you now have less draft capital on a season that was even worse than the year prior to that, I have to give you an F. There's no other way I see fit in grading this team but an F right now for the Carolina Panthers.
Well, I can't disagree with you whatsoever. To me, this was the worst year of every NFL team this year, and I also agree with you. I think this is probably the worst year the Panthers have had, including their 1-15 season in the franchise's history, because you're supposed to have the feeling that you're having this springboard moment where you have your number 1 overall, you draft your guy, and now there's supposed to be some hope. Okay, so they had an 18-15 victory over the Texans, and they had a dismal 9-7 victory in a rain-soaked Charlotte afternoon against the Falcons. But with both games, none of them gave you the, wow, so this is what the future holds for the Panthers feel, because it was more along the lines of, okay, well, they got out of it with by the skin of their teeth. And there wasn't anything else in any other game that they played that made you think otherwise. And yeah, F is definitely my grade. And it was just horrible. It was horrible. I mean, I can go on and throw all sorts of adjectives: horrible, abysmal, moribund. Heck, I'll even go this route, because the 2023 Carolina's Panthers season, it was one absolute and even the game they played against the Texans and the game they played against the Falcons, all 17 Panthers games were if you have anything else, please say it now. I don't think you do. I most certainly don't.
When it comes to this, no, absolutely not. I'm ready to cover other teams.
My man, good. Guess what I thought. All right, so we graduate, and I really do mean graduate, to the Falcons. Now, they finished their season 7-10. They did get a spot-on draft pick with Bijan Robinson. The running back was the only bright spot for the team, and they were in contention. I mean, they were 6-6, and they were in the mix for the NFC South crown before the stretch drive left them 1-4, and looking so far on the outside looking in that you would not have thought that they were competing for a divisional crown. So Arthur Smith was the head coach. He got axed, and in his place is Raheem Morris. And I think what's going to really suck for the Falcons is they drafted Desmond Ridder, thinking that this was going to be the guy, obviously year before last, thinking this is going to be the guy, and they tried to build around him. And I think the whole league was unimpressed with him. The team is so unimpressed with him. They now are in the Justin Fields or Russell Wilson or any name your quarterback that is available out now sweepstakes. All right, your grade for the Falcons and your thoughts on their 2023 season.
Well, it was tough on old Artie because he already shaved up the mustache. I mean, he even knew that I was going to be grading him pretty tough. We got Dante and Ike in the house. What's up, fellas? By the way, while I see you guys there commenting so far.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this right here, the Atlanta Falcons are definitely going to make some moves this offseason at quarterback because, Desmond Ridder, unfortunately, like you said, they draft him to be the heir apparent. Marcus Mariota didn't quite work out.
Right.
And it's not looking like it's going to be the succession plan that we thought that was going to be in place.
Right.
7-10, definitely a tough season. They kept fighting all the way through, even though you had the tales of woe going on with Artie Smith. They definitely did in front of you on TV watching. It didn't seem like they were giving up. They were still pushing through each and every week. And for that, I kind of feel like I might be grading them a little bit harsh here, but based on the record, based on the fact they had to let go of their head coach, I'm going to give them a D+, for the 7-10 season. And, I kind of feel like I have to because the other teams that were about to grade in this division did a little bit better than them. Not by much, but they did. So I feel like if I graded them as a C- or a C, then I'd have to grade the other teams a lot higher based on that. So for their 7-10 season, for the fact that Desmond Ridder, underperformed based on the talent that's around him, when you think of the wide receiving core options, when you think of who they have at tight end, their running back with Robinson, they've got a pretty stud offensive line, a lot better than other teams like the Commanders and other teams that we've talked about in this past season. So when I look at the Atlanta Falcons as a whole, they should have had a much better record than 7-10. They should have at least been 10-7, in my opinion. It should have been a difference of 3 wins to 3 losses of an improvement. They should have been at least 10-7, in my opinion. And because of the underwhelming performance, because it resulted in a coaching change at the end of the season, and a lot of question marks that we still don't have answered yet, I'm going to stick with the D+ rating for the Atlanta Falcons for this season.
D+. Okay. All right. I was leaning in that direction myself. I think what makes me go D is the point that you mentioned. Unlike the Panthers, the Falcons, no matter what game it was, no matter the opponent, they fought. And they were in, at least until December, they were in every game they played. And they tried their best to basically reduce the game to a brawl. Not saying that they were dirty or physical per se, but I think they wanted to. I think they knew that they had to be physical and had to be more physical than their opponent to win. And of course, it lends itself to an ugly style of football. Well, I put it this way: ugly style of football, but it leads more to the football that I think we both love to watch. And I think the effort was correct. Unfortunately, I think the strategies was all wrong, and unfortunately, the talent wasn't there either. And if they didn't possess the fight, I would have given them an F2, but they possessed enough fight to where I had to make it a D+2, and I think it's a great grade. And I hope they can continue having that fight with Raheem Morris as head coach of the team. Hopefully, Arthur Blank has his guy because Arthur Smith was not. To the tribe we go. Ike does it. What's up, brother? It is good to see you. He says, "What's up, homies?" With a Z. And I have some information with that. I won't mention it here, but in the coming weeks, I will tell you about that.
Is that part of our post-production shenanigans?
Might be. It might.
Yes. I'm looking forward to post-production talk today.
Oh Lord. What is up, Dante? He says, "What's good, guys?" He says, "What's up to you, Ike?" I gotta say, I hope everything's good with you. Of course, we will talk about, I think, not an issue. We'll talk about a topic that I think will probably make you feel a little more melancholy than usual, Eagles fan that you are, sir. But we're proud of the guy that we're going to be talking about later on. Our brother Snowman, he says, "Two of my homies, Sensei Drew and Go Sports."
Snowman!
Snowman's feeling a lot better, gents. And that makes me feel good. I'm glad to hear that, brother. I'm glad you're here. But more importantly, I'm glad that you're up and that you're fighting again. That's what you need to do. That's where you need to be, my brother. Glad that you're back.
12 rounds, Snowman. 12 rounds.
That's right.
You still got several rounds to go. Keep on rocking and rolling.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Sometimes we have to sometimes we have to do a standing Kate, shake them things off, and you just keep on fighting. You see, Ike is loving you, brother. He says, "What's up, bro?" And he says, "Congrats on Kelce's career." And we'll talk about him, of course, a little later. But we're also going to talk a little more about the NFC South. And we go to the Saints, the New Orleans Saints. They had a slow start, or slower start than the Falcons. They started the season 5-7. They saw that they made, how can I say, they had bad losses, and I think they wanted to atone for it, and they came on strong, and they finished 4-1 to finish 2023 at 9-8. Unfortunately, all throughout the year, they struggled mightily with Derek Carr at quarterback. Now, he would throw for 300 yards in the game, but he would not put the ball into the end zone often. And the offense struggled along with them. And the defense seemed to struggle just about as much. And what kept them out the playoffs were they were costing losses in Green Bay and at home against, the home game against the Bucs, a home game against the Lions, and when they went out to SoFi to play the Rams. Hey, but there is a positive. They still have Jameis Winston on their roster. You're great, sir. And what are your thoughts on the Saints?
This is the same Jameis that had a 5-finger discount at the grocery store, wasn't it?
Yeah. He decided that crab legs need to be free. Yes.
Now, even though it's been like over a decade since he did that, I feel like he's learned his lesson. So I'll give him a little bit of a break. I'll backtrack a little bit. I'll backpedal a little bit. Mm-hmm. But looking right here, based on the fact they were 9-8, they were better than the previous two teams that we graded in this division. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing that really affected them, and they probably would have won the entire division had they had a little bit better of a quarterback play out of Derek Carr, because for what they picked him up for coming from the Raiders, this was not anticipated for the type of struggles that he, kind of went through this past year. Overall, I mean, there were probably some haters out there that thought, he was a system play quarterback, and that's why he had the success that he did, because the system that they were running over there in Oakland, even though he had multiple coaching schemes and 10 years behind him, during that time that included the John Gruden and then so on and so forth before that. But looking at this team right here, overall, if they would have had better quarterback play, if there were some things within the defense that I feel like they could have improved on a little bit more, even though I feel like the defense is a big part of why they finished 9-8. Had they had better quarterback play, this team would have definitely made the playoffs, because it came down to the very end of the season between them and Tampa Bay anyway, and Tampa Bay ended up just sneaking in there. So with the fact that Derek Carr was a decisive factor in this, in the quarterback play is a huge part of a team's success, I'm going to have to go ahead and grade this team based on the fact that they didn't make the playoffs. I'm going to have to give them a C-.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll go C. And I think the reason why I'm going there, I look at this team and I just don't. There's pieces that I like on it, but how they gelled, or how the lack of gelling happened, is what gives me pause. Their defense is pretty good, but you wouldn't think it with some of the games they play. And the offense can be explosive, and they have pieces that actually can put up points on the board. But man, it was like pulling teeth seeing them execute. And it just seemed as though they didn't have the right coaching with Dennis Allen as head coach, and he's still there now. And it seems like there's still a team in flux. And I think they didn't really get it going until December, where it's like, oh, shoot. So we're 5-7. We still have a shot at the division crown. Okay, well, we need to get our stuff together and let's go. And that started too late. If they did this in November, they would have had a better shot at the NFC South crown. But no, they decided to languish through 3 months and say, okay, well, we're probably going to give up in the season, but then realize, oh, so there's one team that's 6-6, another team's 6-6, and we're right there. Okay, well, we can finish. We can win this division. All we have to do is run the table. And if they ran the table, they would have, but they did not. Oh, well. But I think what they understood is that Derek Carr, as spectacular in stats as he is not their quarterback. And it's unfortunate. He's not their quarterback. And they don't have one who is in the future offing to actually take over. So the future doesn't really look good for them. That's what I don't like. And then their number one running back, Alvin Kamara. So he did some shenanigans off the field. He gets suspended for the first few weeks of the season. He comes back, and he definitely was a shell of his former self. So defense, they're not the pass rushes. The secondary gets toasted. The linebacker core is probably the only saving grace of that side. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you have weapons. So of course, one is now old in Jimmy Graham. But you have weapons at wide receiver, but either they want to be there or they could care less being on the field. Running back is not really a problem yet. They're just not producing the way they're supposed to. And then you got a quarterback that just can't get the team together. This is pointing to a team that could spiral even further downward come 2024. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
No, not at all. And I mean, it's not like the team had an overall down year to where they're higher up in the draft this year, to where they have like a top 10 pick. So It's not like their pick this year, unfortunately, is going to be that much of a difference maker, because for as much as they want to say there's certain weapons that are loaded within this draft, it's not loaded like throughout the deep part of the first round and the second round. As far as the notable talent that we know on paper are going to come in and produce, there'll of course be some sleepers throughout the draft and the later rounds that we'll find out throughout the years, and maybe they might pick that person up. But you know, the fact that you got Jameis on the team, you kind of need to rock and roll with what you got for this upcoming season. I feel like I wouldn't throw a lot of money into free agency at a quarterback. It's not like you're going to be able to pick up Kirk Cousins or anybody, or even if you picked up Joe Flacco. I don't think Joe Flacco would have the type of fit that he did in Cleveland.
No.
Like, you know, I don't think he would have that fit in New Orleans.
No, he wouldn't.
Even though there's some talks about Flacco potentially going to New England, which if Mac Jones plays terrible, if that even gets to a point within preseason training camp or whatnot, they throw Flacco, and it's going to be a huge change from youth in age of the quarterback position over there in New England, considering there's different coaching tenure over there now. But looking at here in New Orleans, Derek Carr definitely was the decisive factor in why they ended their season the way they did, why they finished with the 9-8 record, why they were just outside the playoffs. When, you know, looking at it at the end of the year, had they ended the year a little bit in a better note, they would have been the ones that made the playoffs. However, I'm glad that Buccaneers made it, because they made a little bit more noise in the wild card round than the Saints. The Saints would have got thumped, I feel like, had they limped in. So the better team won the division here. But based on what I saw in the way that they collapsed, I just felt like they deserved a C-. But I like your grade too. But at the end of the day, you know, they gotta improve in overall all three phases of that team, because it's not the worst thing we saw this year, but it wasn't pretty either.
No, it definitely was. In stretches, no question about that. You mentioned the Buccaneers. I'm glad that you did that wonderful transition and segue, sir. These were the 2023 NFC South champs, and they, of course, ended up with the number 4 seed. but they started off really slow. They started sluggish. They started 4-5 to begin the season. And then they found that they had their quarterback in Baker Mayfield. For whatever reason, however the chemistry meshed, it seemed like the coaching staff, the offense, and basically the rest of the team seemed to say, "Oh, number 6 is our guy. Let's see what this guy can do. Let's see how this guy can lead us, and we'll take it from there." And starting from their 10th game of the season, they played much, much better. They may have found their running back of the future in Rashawn White, because he actually was the one to move chains often. And once they found that piece of the puzzle, a lot of things started to make a lot more sense for the Bucs. In fact, even the pass rushing for the Bucs picked up when they actually decided to be more balanced on offense. What a shock. So in their stretch where they ended their season 5-3. They won the NFC South for the 3rd consecutive year, which is a franchise record because they have never done that in their franchise. And you touched it. They did not just limp in, they powered in the playoffs and dismantled the Eagles 32-9 in the NFC wildcard round before losing to the Lions 31-23 in the NFC divisional round, but giving them a battle. And that is what I love about this particular team. Your thoughts on the 2023 Buccaneers, the NFC South champs, and your grade for them?
You may think my grade for them is a little bit high, but when I think about the fact that they helped close the book on probably one of the bigger collapses we've seen of this decade, of the 2020s, and the Eagles, and what they did to them in the playoffs. Yeah, the fact that, because the way that they started the year and the way that they collapsed, I mean, you heard what Kelce said during his retirement speech yesterday, which we'll touch up on here in a little bit, but based on the way that this past year went, it just absolutely sucked for him. I mean, looking at that, the way the Buccaneers team started 4-5, there was already enough shade thrown at the fact that Buccaneers took Baker Mayfield in this past offseason, and that, with the stops that he had made over the course of the past 2 seasons between Cleveland and Carolina and LA and now over here to Tampa Bay, they were throwing the book at Baker, to come in and start this year and not really giving him that much of a fair shake. We were a little bit nicer to him in some aspects, even though I was calling him Bunker Stayfield at certain points. And that was mainly due to his play during that first 9-week span when they were 4-5. Yeah. But if you notice, for those of you Total Football Talk tribe members out here, for those of you who have watched this show throughout the year, I kind of eased up on him at certain points throughout the year when he was playing a little bit better, a little bit up to the par of what Baker Mayfield should be playing like. But the fact that they got the production, the continued production out of Mike Evans, the timeless Mike Evans, from what it seems like at this point, because for him being in his 30s, he's not playing like he's in his 30s. And we'll talk about that more here in a little bit as well. But when I look at this Tampa Bay team, post Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II here in 2023, and the fact that Baker comes in here, there was more shade thrown on him than there was during TB12's time as the quarterback in Tampa Bay. For what he did, he definitely not only met the expectations of the team, not the media, but the team, but exceeded them. And for that, I have to not only grade based on that performance on the offensive side, but defensive side and special teams all the way around. I'm giving them a B+ for how they ended the season after starting at 4-5, getting to the playoffs, and winning that first round in the wild card to upset the Eagles, even though the Eagles were out of gas at that point and completely deflated based on what had happened to them at that point in the year. For them to come off the first 9-game stretch that they did, turn it around, get to the playoffs on a 9-8 record, and do what they did in the first round, I'm giving them a B+ for their grit and staying tough and making it through to get to the playoffs, and not only get there, but win a game.
Dare say their 9-8 record in the regular season was a little bit deceiving, considering they looked really good in their 2 playoff games. And it's high for me, but I can understand it though. I can totally understand it though, because the way they ended the season, they ended it really strong. Because we saw it, because the team that we saw in late September was different than the team we saw in mid-January. They had a different focus, they had a different swagger to them, they had a different focus, and they had a different belief to them. Because I think they did not know what they had in Baker Mayfield coming into the season, although they did start the season 2-0. They didn't know what they had in him, but they definitely knew what they had in him when they got to the playoffs. Minus a B, not minus, not plus, B. Yeah, I'm sort of penalizing them for only being 9 up and 8 down. However, I am definitely giving them a B because they looked really good against the Eagles. I mean, that was the best game they played all year. And then I think, I'll say it this way. I think the second best effort they put forth as a team was the very next week. The best effort was, of course, a wild card round. I think the second best effort was the divisional round. They just simply were in enemy territory and they played against a better team. That was hungrier and more focused. But that does not diminish that the Buccaneers weren't focused. They were focused in the game too. They just ran against a buzzsaw that, when they were clicking on all cylinders, they are hard to beat, especially at home. So to have that understanding, and they had the ball with under 2 minutes to go, driving to possibly try to tie the score in that game, I'm like, okay, so they had some fight and they had some grit, they had some toughness. And this wasn't just a crappy division record champion who lucked into a victory in the wild card round. All right, this team has a little punch to them. Okay, all right, cool. And because of what I saw in them in mid-January and the latter part of January, I was like, yeah, this team, I like. Unlike the Saints, I'm actually liking the direction of the Bucs, because I think they can go places, and I think they can build on this season and be better. I mean, because let's look at it this way: the year before they were 8-9, so. So even though it's a 1-game difference, they did build on it. 1-game difference, and they won a playoff game versus 8-9, and they got summarily dismissed by the Cowboys. So I'm liking the direction of the Bucs this year going into next. And we'll touch on, of course, I think even better news for the Bucs later on in the slate. But I say a B. And their 2 playoff games, to me, give me hope that I believe this team can really make some noise in 2024. All right. Dante says, look, the NFC South is a tough division to predict. It's a lot to like, but a lot of work needs to be done. And yeah, you definitely can say that about all 4 teams in terms of there's some element that you can find, like with the Panthers. Okay, well, they got Bryce Young. He might be gun shy, so he might have PTSD coming into next year because he has 300-pound turnstiles looking in front of him.
Yes.
With the Falcons, you have Bijan Robinson, because if you didn't have him, the Falcons really have nothing else to build on, but you have a running back that I think you can build around. With the Saints, you've got a lot of talent. They just don't have the right focus and a leadership to guide them. And then with the Bucs, well, look, we can throw shade on Todd Bowles all we want, but we're looking at the guy who is not going back to back NFC South champion.
Yeah. And, we just talked about a coach, earlier, Raheem Morris used to coach him.
Yeah.
The Bucs couldn't get this success out of him.
Right. And now he will get to coach against them twice a year. So, yeah. Yeah. And Dante says, look, Baker may have found a new home. Honestly, he played lights. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And there's a sequence in the wild card round where it was a timeout. And this shows me how much he likes being in Tampa and how much the team likes him being there. So he gets a Gatorade bottle. He positions himself perfectly, and I think this is probably next to his quarterback's coach, where he squirts the water and he gets in his mouth, and then he purposely shifts it over to squirt his QB coach, and the QB coach gets away and laughs. Seeing that exchange, I'm like, this is a home, and this is a family that they can build this success around, because when they can joke around like that, that's a great sign. Yeah, so I believe he's found a new home, and he played his best season of his NFL career, and I think he could play better than that. And that's a scary thing to say. I think he can play better next year than this year. Ike says, Baker got lucky this year. He'll suck until 24. I don't think so, man. I would love to say he got lucky. I don't think so. And the reason why I don't think so, Ike, is that team seemed to really be galvanized by, in a game they lost against the Texans. They had no business scoring a touchdown with less than a minute to go. But that drive was all Baker Mayfield. And if it wasn't for a miraculous TD drive that took less than a minute from CJ Stroud, we would be talking about the beginning of Baker Mayfield actually showing that he is the leader of the Bucs in that game.
If the Buccaneers take a big downturn next year and suck in quote unquote Ike's terms, then I would feel this way.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Ladies and gentlemen, a new clip. I like that. Dante says, I don't know. There's a lot for him to grow in that offense. Plus, they got Mike Evans back. Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about Mike Evans as well. And like I said, they got really good pieces along with him. Chris Godwin is another good piece that I think, because of the fact that the offense seems to have good weapons around him, he didn't really have to make a lot of noise. And I think that's a good thing, because he could come and surprise you. I mean, and I'm blanking on the rookie tight end that I think might make some noise too in the future as well. They got some pieces. They got some pieces on offense where Baker can actually do some damage. So I'm liking what I'm seeing with the Bucs. Yes, yes, Kirk.
You like that? You like that?
Yes, I do, sir.
I figured we should replace VKM because, VKM is no longer a part of the board. If you know what I'm saying? And it may not be appropriate for us to be blasting him on our airwaves. So I figured I would replace that with "you like that" with a surprise expletive. Censorship.
You like that? You like that?
You're darn right, Kirk. I like that.
Yeah, I had to make a few upgrades to the board that we have here, ladies and gentlemen. So that was what was on tap for this Tuesday for episode 27. 27 okay. Big numbers.
Thank you for that. I like that. Yeah, because when I saw that, it was
surprise, motherfucker.
Like, wow, yeah, like this is a surprise.
Delete.
It wouldn't be a Tuesday morning without a Tyrone Alizé McDummy sighting. Like, come on now. Like, that was a wild take last week. We are back to Tam.
Oh, Lord, I do like Tam. I do like that. Oh, Lord. Well, what I also like is these grades that we're giving. All right, why not? What grade did you give the division?
Ooh, it's a tough one to grade. I think I got to agree with Dante with this one when it comes to the division. It's a tough division. It's a very tough one to predict because, they don't have Dan Campbell in it, but they do seem gritty enough to where they're coming after your kneecaps, okay, in a way. So, for the way that it came down to the wire between the Saints and the Bucs, I think I gotta grade this division with the C. Like I can't
Good.
go any worse. They're middle tier. You know, they're not the worst of them all, but at the same time, I can't grade them much higher. I'm gonna have to go with the C.
Yeah, C's good. Like, and quite frankly, the Saints and the Bucs helped them out. Yeah. To me, if I were to look at this division versus any other, talent-wise, I think they have the worst of all of them. And I'm not trying to throw shade at them. It's just I'm just not really all that impressed with the whole division. But I am impressed with the Bucs, and I love their direction. And I think the Saints just need leadership, and I think that's a big time issue. Now, yeah, with the Falcons, like I said, they need to build around Bijan Robinson and find some sort of identity. And you got Raheem Morris. Obviously, defensively, they'll find that identity sooner, probably, than they would offensively. And I'm thinking they are on their way to doing what they're going to do, which basically to me is stubborn defense, ball control offense. I'm getting the vibe that is what Raheem Morris wants to instill, and he already has a piece that can help him do that. And with the Panthers, like I said earlier, you got Bryce Young and 5 300-pound turnstiles. I don't know what they can do with that. So yeah, C is a good one, and I'm very actually I'll amend it. I'll say C minus because I really want this division to be better. I really do. Why is El Jefe? He says, "Good morning, my brothers. Good morning to you, my mentality brother. It is good to see you, man."
Was El Jefe.
Oh man. So we are now in the AFC South, and we will begin with my favorite team in all of the NFL, the Tennessee Titans.
That was a lie.
I was waiting for it.
I knew you were. So they, just like the Panthers, they changed their service from grass to artificial turf for home games. And along with it, they got awarded a new stadium. So in 2027, I think, that is when they will be entering into a new stadium. And of course, they're doing this in hopes of hosting a Super Bowl later on down the line. Mike Vrabel, who has been the coach for a few years, he got fired. And now Brian Callahan replaces him. Now, you might be familiar with the last name Callahan. Of course, you know his father. He was the head coach and longtime offensive lines coach. I'm blanking at the first name. But he basically coached a team that went to the Super Bowl with the Raiders in 2002. And he probably actually had a stint as offensive line coach with your beloved Commanders, I think, at some point in his career. But yeah, Brian Callahan, he was the Bengals offense coordinator before taking the job now in Nashville. They may be saying goodbye to Derrick Henry. They may not. But they're looking for a buyer. So Derrick Henry, who has spent all of his career with the Titans, he still might be a Titan in 2024, but they're looking for pieces because there's a lot that's missing. And those jokers wore the Houston Oilers uniform twice. They won one and they lost one. The one that they won, of course, was against the Falcons. The one they lost made me happy. The overtime. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm doing this wrong, sir. I'm doing wrong by you, sir. The overtime. With no time remaining in overtime, 19-16 to the Houston Texans, bouncing those Houston Oilers traitors out the playoffs. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little too excited. You're great on the Titans, and your thoughts about their 2023 season.
First of all, before I get to that, you brought up Callahan.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you.
Thank you, Wise. Bill Callahan.
Yes. You bring up Bill Callahan.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if his son if the apple didn't fall far from the tree, I wonder if he reached out to Mike Vrabel and asked him to leave his playbook behind. When you look back at the John Gruden Bowl between the Buccaneers and the Oakland Raiders that were coached by Bill Callahan, who basically ran every single play that John Gruden ran in sequence with the same names, it's going to be easy to figure out this Tennessee Titans team if that's what he does, if the son of the father comes in and does the exact same thing with the Tennessee Titans. No, I don't think that's going to actually happen. I'm just being facetious and a little bit of entertainment right now here in the morning on Total Football Talk. When it comes to this Tennessee Titans team, 6-11 here. You know, I even like how Cole put in the stat line right there where he was talking about the fact that you've got a 1-1 record with the Houston Oilers jerseys on. Like, when I read that last night, I was like, of course he would put that stat line in there where
doggone right.
They were 1-1 with the. I loved it. I'm not throwing any shade at it. I thought it was great. But 6-11 record. Tannehill was there. It was the beginning. I wouldn't say the beginning. It was the end of the Mike Vrabel tenure, as we all know now. I mean, there were some of us, like myself, who were clamoring to give him another year with better weapons, because that's the problem. They, the front office let Mike Vrabel down. Mike Vrabel didn't let this team down. This team was worse than 6-11.
They sure were.
And it was the coaching that willed them into the 6-11 record. And you made him the scapegoat. Kind of like how we were talking about Steve Wilkes being the scapegoat as a defensive coordinator. For the 49ers. Vrabel was the scapegoat for the Tennessee Titans here. So looking at this, I would expect this team to have been more like 3-14, had it been with any other coach, or worse. If Artie was still there, got elevated from offensive coordinator to head coach, then I don't think that he would have been 6-11 at this point in his tenure as the head coach if he would have been the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. So looking at what Vrabel did with that defense, which is something that was part of his strong suit, is he played that in that scheme, in the defensive scheme, for his entirety of his NFL career. And that's what he was known for before he came to the Tennessee as the head coach. I mean, he's got the defensive background. That side of the ball was always strong during Mike Vrabel's run as the head coach in Tennessee. Special teams, which I think there's several plays we can go back to and look at that cost them the game too. Between their offense and their special teams, you got to at least be, I wouldn't say dominating or dominant. You can't be dominant, but at least you have to play well in 2 out of the 3 phases of the game of football between offense, defense, and special teams. And they weren't. The only phase they were playing well on was defense, which was keeping the score down in certain games that would have been higher in other cases if they didn't have a good defense. So because of that, because it overshadowed it, it was pros and cons, it outweighed it a little bit more. I would have to say, based on the play of the offense, very, very, very bad overall. And something they have to address this offseason, no matter whether it's Callahan who's coaching or whoever you bring off the street. You have to make some changes there at the offensive side of the ball, because 6-11 for Vrabel's last year, you have to give credit more to him to getting to that point than anything else, because he willed them there. I'm going to say, for my grade for them, and based on the fact that I think that they should have a worse record because of what they had to play with, I'm going to give them a D.
Yeah. I think what the organization saw was, I believe they think that they believe the players tuned out Vrabel. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure that they tuned Vrabel out. I'm definitely sure that they just did not have the skill set they thought they had to execute what this team should. And because they thought this team was going to execute better not talking about Vrabel. I'm talking about the front office and the ownership group. They actually thought this team was going to perform better than their 6-11 record dictated. But like you said, we saw the top product on the field. They were fortunate to get to 6-11, and it was due to Mike Vrabel instilling in them, similar to what Arthur Smith, who actually is a Mike Vrabel disciple, instilled in the Falcons, which is you're in every single game, you fight. And yeah, they had issues with special teams all throughout the year. They definitely had issues at quarterback because they came in the season with Ryan Tannehill being the guy, and then they soft-shoed the replacement with Will Levis. And oh, by the way, you had Malik Willis, who it was clear as day. They basically said this guy is not going to see the field. So you had that just at quarterback. And so, yeah, when Tannehill got injured early in the season and Levis replaced him, they were like, oh, I'm not so sure. Even after having the wonderful game he had in his very first start against the Falcons, they're like, I'm not so sure. Then 3 games later, they're like, yeah, this is the guy going forward. And yes, he played best of all of them. And I think he has a lot in the toolbox that's going to help the Titans out in the future if they are to protect him correctly and if they're going to give him weapons. But the weapon should not be a past his prime and just about be decrepit DeAndre Hopkins and a bunch of New England Patriots like wide receivers, because it's not going to get the job done with any quarterback that has the talent and skill set that Will Levis has. And defensively, they're really stuck in neutral. I mean, they can run block, they have good presence for run defense, but sometimes that could disappear. They could give you some pass rushing every now and then, but that could disappear. They can make things difficult in the secondary, but sometimes they can get toasted and burned. It's just such an influx and up and down with them. It's like, all right, you got to have focus. And I don't think this is on coaching. I really believe it is on the talent of the players, because it's just this is not coming from a Texans fan. This take I'm about to say, this is as straight up as an analyst. They just simply do not have the talent to execute the way that they should. They just don't. And if they did, they would have had a better season. And unfortunately, and I 100% agree with you, Mike Vrabel was a scapegoat. And I knew he was going to be the scapegoat as soon as the season was over. I'm like, they're going to get rid of him. And he doesn't deserve it. They should wait it out, try to rebuild this team, get more talent, and they probably will get back to where they were actually going to AFC Championship games. But nope. They decided, nope. The end of the road is here with Mike. We got to let him go. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I look at that and I look at the fact that even though Will Levis only played in 9 games, I mean, yeah, he had a 3-6 record, but he still had a better touchdown to interception ratio. Mm-hmm. He still had 8 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, threw for 1,800 yards, had a completion percentage, that was 58%, almost 59, and had a quarterback rating of 84. So compared to Malik Willis, who his 2 years there, he's got 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, absolute dumpster fire, spearheaded by the dumpster pelican of the quarterback room, and that is Malik Willis with his haircut and all as well. So when I look at all of that too, I have to put this all on the fact that the management, the front office, got this wrong with who they decided to oust here. If you were going to oust anybody, you would make some moves like at the coordinator positions, like your offensive coordinator, who unfortunately, since Artie Smith left and became the head coach of Atlanta, they have not had a successful offensive coordinator, in my opinion, in Tennessee. They have been consistently trending downward at their offense. And with that, you still at least have a guy that you got in Levis, who came in last year and, there was not the expectations for him and do some great things, but he at least came in and he didn't completely soil the sheets too bad. I mean, you look at the touchdown to interception ratio, you look at his passing yards, you get him some weapons, you get him some better play calling. I think that they got something they can work with for the next 10 to 12 years that they can keep him. But yeah, get rid of Malik Willis, convert him to a wide receiver maybe if he's got good hands, because there was talk about that for a while, but it kind of subsided. If you can get some use out of him for what you're investing in him, and if he's willing to do it, that could pay off, because Malik Willis is still young. He's only in his second year, coming into his third year now for this upcoming season. But yeah, if Callahan can call his own plays and continue to and not be like his father, not like father, not like son, I think that they can do something and turn this thing around. But unfortunately, I feel like they should have been able to do that with Vrabel, and they got it wrong this past offseason. Like, I don't know if they were hoping that Belichick would come to Tennessee or something stupid like that. But, unfortunately, they made the wrong call there. Vrabel should be there for many years to come.
Yeah. He should, because I mean, the being in Nashville, the area really liked him, and I can understand he has a really good personality. He's hard nosed, even though he has a brain for football and he's an intelligent guy. He's hard nosed. He's take no stuff. He's in your face. He's excitable. He's the type of guy that, you want to see win and you want to root for him to win. And to have that element gone, but this goes right into what I've always felt about the Titans, and that is their front office and ownership group. No bueno. No bueno.
I was about to bring that up.
And that leads right into what Dante said. Dumbest decision I've seen. You have to draft weapons, the dumb trade for a pick, giving A.J. Brown away. Here is the problem. Oh, and he goes on to say, I forgot about Willis. Salute to Baltimore for sticking with Lamar. Yeah. Here's the thing about that, Dante. So they thought there was this wide receiver named Broyles who had the same build and the same height and weight as A.J. Brown. They looked at Brown. They saw that he was by far the best player on the team. And they're like, okay, he's going to want to break the bank. We need to get rid of him and get some draft picks. This kid from Arkansas, we're going to draft, and he's going to replace Brown. And we're going to just move this machine along. Goodness gracious. And so they gift wrapped they literally gift wrapped a talent and a foundational piece to a football team going to Philly because they wanted to pinch pennies. I have said this on this air, and I've said this in other places. The Titans, even when they were the Oilers, they are penny pinchers. They are cheap. They are frugal. They do not want to spend $1. And if you are talented, you have to look. And if you're talented and you're not considered the guy on the team, you got to look at the front door because they're willing to let go of you. And that shouldn't have happened. Not with A.J. Brown. He should still be a Titan, but they didn't want to pay him, and they traded him. And, well, the Titans lost to the Eagles gain, and you see what he's done with the Eagles the last 2 years. So, there you go. Oh, Ike says, Titans better than Oilers, Cole. They still exist. They wore the uniform, Mike. So, unfortunately, the Oilers still exist, too. That is what makes me ill.
When you put that back up there, because when I first saw that, all I thought of was...
That was a lie.
Ike, Give my man a little bit of space here. I mean, come on now. It's been a while since the Oilers have been around, and the Titans have sucked for a while. So for that, you need to.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
And as always,
Acknowledge me.
Exactly, Dante. And then they wanted to trade away their best defensive interior lineman. I'm like, this is the idiocy of the Titans. This is right. Those two statements that you have put right there, this one, sir, and this one, sir, thank you. Because this outlines the idiocy of the Titans.
yeah, Amy Adams Strunk should have definitely made a move at her with her GM and not her head coach, because again, like, Vrabel deserved better, and now he's watching from afar as he has no job in the NFL this season. So we'll see what happens with him in the coming months to the year if he comes on back somewhere else.
Yeah, I hope he does. He's a really good coach. He's a really good head coach. I'll put it that way. Yeah, and I can believe that, Dante. I can believe that there was the original trade, to trade him, probably even to trade him and Brown away. I could totally believe that. But but that's the Titans for you. That's the Titans brass for you. They do not want to pay players. They'll pay one. And right now that one is Derrick Henry. They'll pay one. And now they have to actually say, all right, do we have to, with the quarterback position, pay the other? And even then, they decided to go with the guy who, he's a veteran, but he's not elite. And then they had to cede it to the new kid. So we shall see. But the Titans, you get a D for me too. Stop talking about the fake Oilers.
The Foilers.
The Foilers. Thank you, Ryan McCarthy. To the Colts, even though, yes, they and the Jaguars are in the same division as the team that I root for, and it would make me somewhat ill to talk about any of these teams, I feel much better talking about both the Jaguars and the Colts. The Colts, they hung with the Jaguars for the division lead throughout the season. They finished at 9-8, obviously. They lost Anthony Richardson in their victory in Houston in week 2. And they were led the rest of the season by Gardner Minshew, a.k.a. Sir
Uncle Rico.
Okay. And he did a pretty good job considering. They re-signed Jonathan Taylor to a multi-year extension after contentious negotiations and after Jim Irsay decided out of his fat mouth to, I'll paraphrase, to basically say, well, running backs need to get it off the glass. That's the market for running backs. They should be happy to get 1-year contracts. Beautiful job, sir, when you have a really good running back in your team and you want to piss him off and he's looking for a contract extension. But you say all running backs in the NFL should have 1-year deals. I digress. As you can see, I have a difficult time liking Jim Irsay, just like Amy Adams Shrunk. The win at Ravens early in the season was the high moment of the season, but being swept by the Jaguars made their playoff road harder. And then the Week 18 game that I'll talk about later. Your thoughts on the Colts and the grade that you give them, sir?
Well, I feel like their success that they had this year definitely was on the shoulders of Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen definitely did a phenomenal job coaching this Colts team because, once Uncle Rico was asserted in there at quarterback, there were teams. I mean, there was several professional analysts out there saying, "Oh, the season's over," blah blah blah, and the Colts were in it, throughout the majority of this season. Unfortunately, falling short, for the division, and the Houston Texans taking it there at the end, but. I didn't think the Colts deserved to win, and I'll give you my reason why. Because Uncle Rico definitely showed why he had some underwhelmingly performances in the past with the Jags and, of course, with his tenureship with the Eagles, and the fact that they get to play the Jags twice a year because they're in the same division, being the Colts. The first time around when they played the Jags, they lost when they had Anthony Richardson at the helm, the quarterback. And the second time they lost when they had Uncle Rico at the helm because of the fact that he threw 3 interceptions. Now, he did throw for over 300 yards, but he had 55 pass attempts right there. So in that game, when you look back on that in October, the fact that they had no running game, that's what they really hurt the Colts this year, was Zach Moss definitely underwhelmingly performed in that game alone. And Jonathan Taylor, for what we've seen him in the past, he didn't have the kind of season. He kind of had a down season too. So Zach Moss coming in, I think he was with Buffalo before, if I remember right. And then he came to Indianapolis, just, didn't really have the type of numbers that he had over there in Buffalo. He was more of a system guy over there in Buffalo, as we've seen. Things are a little bit different over here in Indianapolis, which is sad because I feel like the offense and the overall team is ran a little bit better under Shane Steichen than it is under McDermott over there in Buffalo. So they need to really work on their running attack during this offseason and figure out if Jonathan Taylor is going to be the future or if they need to bring him in some other support. Do they go after someone like Saquon Barkley, if they to make their running back room a little bit stronger? But, Anthony Richardson hopefully can stay healthy for this upcoming year, but because of their performance in this past year, when it comes to grading them, it's tough. Like I want to rank them a little bit higher because of Shane Steichen and what he did, because I don't think they would have had a 9-8 record without Steichen as the head coach this past year. Agreed. I'm gonna have to go with a C. I'm just gonna go with the C for this one.
I'll go C. I'll go C plus. The plus is Steichen, and I'm glad you mentioned him, because I love the fact that I think he adjusted on the fly. I think he wanted to have a more Eagles-like offense. Of course, he came from there as the offense coordinator of the Eagles, and he had Jalen Hurts there, and of course, it was a hybrid of RPO and pocket passing. It just basically depended on who was the defense and how they were going to defend whatever offense that the Eagles was going to throw at them. So Steichen came from, I guess you could say, a more diverse style, and I sort of call it the Tupac featuring Casey and JoJo. It was like he coaches the how do you want it offense, and so he had that with Anthony Richardson, although of course Richardson had a whole lot less experience than Jalen Hurts, and he only had one full game and 1/2-ish with him before he's gone for the year. And so he had to adjust, and he did not know how he was going to really get through the season. And then, oh, by the way, and on top of things, your best weapon is holding out because he wants money. He thinks he deserves it. I believe he did too. And the ownership group was acting funky with him. And so he had to deal with no Jonathan Taylor, no Anthony Richardson, and you had Uncle Rico, a.k.a. Gardner Minshew, who is a serviceable backup, and in a pinch can give you some really good play. But he would not give you as much diversity as what you would like to have in an offense and from a quarterback position. So it had to be a little bit more on the traditional side for the most part. And he built it around a more traditional pocket passing situation, with Zach Moss being the bell cow until Jonathan Taylor was able to rejoin the team. And so it was sort of like a traditional offense with a strong running style, and it worked for the most part. Timely defense, timely offense, making sure that you don't make the key mistake. The only problem was the offense could not create enough points to really get the ball rolling for real. Sometimes they would, And then the defense would probably say, we're just not up to really defending these days. That was early in the season. Late in the season, the defense came to play. The offense just simply, I think, tired out a little bit. And they may have been figured out a little bit. And for that, I give them a C, because Shane Steichen put them in position to actually have a playoff spot on the line in their last game of the season. So he's a good pickup for them as the head coach. And considering they played with their backup QB for 15 and a half games, pretty good for what they could get. 9-8. Yeah.
Starting 13 of those. He started 13 of those 15 and a half games. And he only threw 15 touchdowns to 9 interceptions in all that time. So what really held them back from performing a little bit better in that time frame is, him, Gardner Minshew. Unfortunately, if a guy who has a 15-22 overall record is a starting quarterback. So looking at all that, he's the one that held him back. They got to figure that out this offseason. Hopefully Anthony Richardson is the key and they can continue to build around him, but he's got to stay healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Dante, I agree. I love Steichen. I cannot stand Irsay. And I like Steichen even as offensive coordinator of the Eagles before he became the Colts head coach. He says, "We miss Shane. Please come back."
Hey, why is he going to take a step backwards? But I feel you though, Dante. I understand why. Yeah,
and I agree. In Week 18, they did lose to a better quarterback. I agree with that, and of course, I'll talk about that later. And he says, "Because I'm near one right now." Play Mary J. Blige. Well, actually, it's Rolls Royce. I'm going down. I'm going down. Because you ain't around. Baby, my whole world's upside down. There you go. And then that's one of my favorite songs, I'm Going Down. But yes, Mary J. Blige covered it. Rolls Royce was the original artist of it. Playmaker, what's up, brother? It's good to see you. He says, Sensei Drew. And the cake lover, Cole Johnson. Well, we ain't loving cakes on this show. They ain't a cake that we talk about that I'll like and that Drew will like on this show.
Is that what's in the development? You're going to be doing a cooking show about cakes?
Sig Diggy, he says, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Or what's good, everybody. But good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to you, sir. All the way from Norway, he joins us. Good to see you, my man. Thank you, Dante. I appreciate that. He says, Cole, the choir director of the city. Fiaf. I forgot about that. Oh, my gosh. Oh, Lord. All right. From the Colts to the Jags, or Jaguars, or Jaguars, as some of you like to say it. I don't know why, but they also finished the season 9-8, and they swept the Colts early in the season. Both their games were real early. In fact, they started game, I think, week 1, and I think their second game was like week 6 or 7. And that pretty much was a feather in their cap, and it put them in prime position to actually be in the driver's seat for the division crown. They went on a 5-game winning streak starting in about late September and extending itself to early November, and winning 6 out of 7 in that stretch. They were 1 quarter away from being the number 1 seed in the AFC when they were 8-3, hosting the Bengals on Monday Night Football with a Jake Browning starting Bengals at home, I might add, when Trevor Lawrence went down, and that pretty much started to spiral downward for them. And speaking of Trevor Lawrence, it looked like he and the defense, as the season went on, regressed hard down the stretch. It sort of was like the reverse of 2022, where they started off the season horrendously, and then they just caught fire and just burned everything in their wake all the way until coming back from a 27-0 deficit to defeat the Chargers 33-30 in the wild card round game they hosted before being upended 27-17 by the then Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, yeah. They're also the Super Bowl champions this year, too. But yes, they did a reverse. They started the season hot, and they were colder than the Arctic Circle coming down the stretch, losing 5 out of their last 6. With the last of that 5 of the 6 they lost, a 28-20. Oh, my God. See, I got to do this right. I'm sorry, sir. So, yes, in Week 18, they went in Nashville. They took a 28-20. In Nashville because Trevor Lawrence's arms were just a couple of inches too short. Otherwise, they probably would have tied it and gone in overtime. Your thoughts on the Jaguars season, narrowly missing the playoffs, and the grade that you give them?
First of all, I'm guilty as charged for saying Jaguars. I don't know. It's part of living on the East Coast, I think. I don't know,
I think so.
But that team right there, the second half of the season, when it came to the way they played, I feel like the majority of people watching football felt this way.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
That's how I feel because they underwhelmingly performed, that second half of the season. I mean, based on the expectations of what we had to start the season for Jacksonville, for Duval, which is stupid anyway. But when it comes to that in Jacksonville, and yeah, I can say it's stupid now because they played stupid the second half of the year. They need to get themselves together before they get...
Delete!
Yeah, get deleted because, between AEW and Jacksonville Jaguars, Khan family is really running into the ground right now between both entities in some aspects. Maybe AEW, they're doing a little bit better of a job right now, but based on what Sick Diggy said for his question, as I see over here, I had to acknowledge that for a second. But looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence got banged up a little bit. Okay, you got Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen on the other side of the ball, and what he's doing for the defense right there. Yeah. When I put all of that in perspective and I think about how this team performed in this past year, even though if you're Josh Allen, you got to be wondering, should I come back to this dumpster fire of a team that finished 9-8 when they definitely should have at least finished 12-5 and what I had predicted them to do in this past season before it started? 9-8, definitely a very underwhelmingly performed year. And based on the fact that they did what they did in this past year and laying an egg, I have to give them a C- for their overall production.
Yeah, you punish them hard for that stretch at the end.
I don't see any other way. I mean, we look at what you and I were talking about before the season even started, and how we were kicking off the show and having that team win this division, and we were completely wrong because, none of us saw your team winning. Even you, saw winning this division. And we thought it was going to be Jacksonville, potentially, or at least Jacksonville was going to get some type of wild card spot if, the Colts, or Tennessee were coming through strong. But, you were even throwing shade at Tennessee before we started the year. So you thought what was going to come of the Tennessee Titans actually happened. I'll at least give you your flowers from that. But when it comes to who was going to win this division, we both got it wrong.
I said Jaguars too. Yeah, I said Jaguars too. Yeah.
So looking at it, and at least it worked out good in your benefit for your fanhood. But overall, when I think about the expectations of this team and how they underwhelmingly performed, at least they started off the first third of the season okay, but they did. The the last 2/3 to last half of the year, no, they did not meet expectations. And for that, I am going to grade them hard because they should have done better. They were supposed to improve based on the 2022 season, and they went even further backwards. So for that, I'm giving them a C-.
And I what sticks in my mind about this team is in the fourth quarter they were up on the Bengals in Duval, and they were playing against the backup QB of the Bengals leading them. And they let that game slip away. And I really believe that was the end. That was the beginning of the end. Because 8 days prior, they played the Texans in Houston. And it was a nip and tuck game, but the Jaguars had control of it. And it was a 58-yard field goal that the Texans missed that gave the Jaguars the win 24-21. And I thought then, I'm like, okay, so they're 8-3. They got a key division victory against the Texans. They needed that to split the season series against them, because then they would have the tiebreaker advantage over the Texans, because they also lost to the Colts already then. So my thought was, okay, so now the Jaguars are playing with house money. They should have the confidence to play these other teams and beat them. And then they go to the very next game, and when Trevor Lawrence went down, that was pretty much it for that team. And I'm like, wow, how is it that it flipped that hard? Then I'm like, wow. And I was just awed. I was just awed at how I thought, okay, so they have the experience of having this playoff run. They gelled. You know, the players are playing for one another. They're playing for Doug Peterson, who's a really good coach, and he still is a good coach. You know, so he's got the team believing the way they're supposed to believe. He even has some playoff experience with a W. So I'm thinking this team should be more cohesive. They should be more in sync. They should look at a team. They should look at the division. In the Colts, they're rebuilding. In the Titans, they have no idea what they're doing. In the Texans, they're hardcore rebuilding. And say this division is ours. This division is ours. And I'm thinking, okay, well, did they start 8-3? I'm like, well, this is looking really good, and they're pushing the Ravens for the number 1 seed in the conference. I'm like, all right, cool. And then they only win one more game the rest of the way. A 26-0 W at home against the Panthers. That was their lone victory in the 5 out of 6 L's they took the rest of the way. A shutout performance at home against the Panthers. You know, so my grade with them is a C. Heck, I'll be with you, C-, because I expected better out of this squad. I really expected more out of them. And yeah, as a fan, it made me happy, of course. I'd be a fool. I mean, this is a divisional rival. I'm glad they tanked. But as an analyst, they upset me. It sucked. This team, you had Josh Allen on the Jaguars, Josh Allen, not Bills. You had Josh Allen, who actually set a franchise record for sacks this year. I'm thinking you should have this. You should have the division by the throat. It should be like the 49ers in the AFC West, but in the AFC South, you should have the division by the throat. No. And that upset me. As an analyst and as a fan of the sport, that upset me, because I thought this team should have done much better than they did. C-, and they're getting this C- because of that 5 out of 6 swoon. And they should be playing much better than they did. Much better.
Yeah, it was.
Lord. Go ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead.
I was saying it was just an absolute dumpster fire over there, and you know, this team really needs to make some moves this offseason in order to improve, to get back to where they were in the hype from what we had last offseason.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. And I think Playmaker doesn't agree with us, because he gives the team an F.
That was a
surprise, motherfucker.
Now to give you context, Playmaker is not a Jaguars fan, but he lives in Jacksonville, so he definitely. It's like a situation with me. I know a lot about the Titans because I live in Nashville. So Playmaker lives in Jacksonville, but he's not a Jaguars fan. He's a Rams fan. But yes, he says the Jaguars folded and let Duval County down,
which was a total
surprise, motherfucker.
I mean, it was because we did not see that. We did not see that coming.
No, we did not see the collapse coming at all. Sick asks, which roster has the most problems between the Jaguars and AEW? Oh, wow.
I feel like this is a topic that we need. In the comments.
Oh, that's a good one, Sick.
We need him here to help for the defense.
He says, "Look, we can add Fulham's football club squad in that discussion as well." And basically talking about teams that start off hot and just ended up being cold.
Don't the Cons own that team too?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
I know they own some type of soccer team, but hey, do they own Fulham? Let us know because I am not a soccer follower.
Me neither, but good sport.
I'm a follower of the other football, but not the football. Not the football, yes. Football. You know.
Football. Oh, my. Football, Lord.
I think I got my swagger back. Oh.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So, along with this show, I co-host the show called Mentality with Wise and F. And there's moments where I'm listening at my co-hosts, both of them, Drew included, Drew and Wise, and I'm saying to myself, what have I got myself into? Because they will say some things that just make me say, I don't believe that came out of their mouths.
Probably thinking,
stop it. Get some help.
Oh my gosh. But I love them both. I love them both. It's great. Probably I'm in an enviable position of being being affiliated with both these talented kinds of creators. So, but yeah, there's just moments where I'm like, oh my gosh.
Hey, you know.
You like that?
Yes, Kirk, I like that. Lord. But yeah, honestly, thoroughly disappointing the Jaguars. I mean, I take the analyst hat off, put the fan hat on. Yes, thank you, Jaguars, for collapsing. I loved every bit of it. Thank you. Fan it off, and let's hat on. What in the world was that in November, December? I mean, come on. I will still say, you all back in September had to look at this division. One team is hardcore rebuilding. Another team is in transition and they're rebuilding a little bit themselves. And another team, they don't know if the sky is brown or blue. And you don't think that you can control the division? I'm like, ugh. That is what upset me. Yeah, I almost want to scrap that and give them a D. And even though they finished ahead of the Jaguars technically, finished ahead of the Colts technically, I'm more disappointed in Jaguars than I am the Colts. Because I didn't see the Colts finish in 9-8. Just like I didn't see the Jaguars finish in 9-8. But it's an improvement for the Colts to finish that way. But it's a vast disappointment for the Jags. Vast disappointment. Yeah, in fact, they were the somewhat. Let me see. There's another team I'm forgetting to. Oh yeah. Yes, all eyes were on the Houston Texans. In the draft, and then later on in the season. And why was it? Well, they drafted their offensive leader and probably team leader of the future in C.J. Stroud, who eventually went on to become the offensive rookie of the year. The defense, which was terrible, it was horrible, it was disgusting, vastly improved with Will Anderson leading the way, being the defensive rookie of the year. And then the team itself was led by a new head coach in his first season as head coach, not just of the team, but of any football, DeMeco Ryans. He was formerly the 49ers defensive coordinator for, I believe, 6 years before taking this position. Their season was almost doomed because they took two absolutely debilitating to the Panthers, to the Jets. The latter put Stroud in concussion protocol, and that really was the worst game of the year they played because they lost that game 30-6. And I'll throw the game in Atlanta in there as well a little bit because they had the talent to beat the team, although they were in the ATL. Just Young Wei Koo had the leg to bring the victory to the Falcons and stick another L to the Texans. However, they had a winner go home scenario in Week 18 against the Colts, forcing the issue and battling and getting to the doorstep of a playoff spot, and they win that game 23-19 in Indy to be the 7th seed. Yes, you heard me correct. They were the 7th seed, clinched the 7th seed position. And then, let's see, 12. Let's see, let me do some math real quick. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 hours later. No, I'll even make it round off. 18 hours later, the Texans went from the 7th seed to the 4th seed as the as the team I can't stand the most gave me a late Christmas gift, handing the Jaguars a 28-20. And giving the Texans their first AFC South championship in 4 years. And then they went on to promptly thrash the Browns, basically avenging the Christmas Eve L they took 36-22 with the 45-14 thumping in the wild card round before summarily getting destroyed by the Ravens 34-10 in the AFC divisional round after having a 10-10 game going into halftime. And they had no answer for the Ravens. Your grade of the Texans and your thoughts about the team in 2023.
There's not much more I can add to what Cole just laid out for you. Well educated, well descriptive, description of his team right there and they deserved it because we did not see this team doing the things they did in the preseason or even the first half of the season. The first half of the season, we were still not completely fully convinced that this team was going to make the noise that they did to finish the year and what they did in the playoffs. DeMeco Ryans definitely proved that his tenureship with the 49ers as the defensive coordinator earned a well-deserved head coaching position over here in Houston. And he is definitely paying dividends in the first year. I mean, you have a rookie head coach and you have a rookie quarterback who together get a 10-7 record and win the division. Not only the record, but the task at hand of winning the division. We did not see this happening. Nobody. I don't even. They'll probably tell you we saw it, but You'd be a liar if you were to sit up here and say we thought the Houston Texans were going to have double-digit wins and that they were going to win the division.
Right.
And, even though it's not like they're 12-5 or 13-4 or anything, based on the expectations of what we saw for Houston, what you were saying prior to week one, what I was saying prior to week one, I'm giving them an A-.
I feel you. I'm
giving an A-. I don't feel like I don't feel like it'd be okay to rate them higher than that because they only had 10 wins. Yeah, they did make a little noise in the playoffs, and CJ Stroud has established himself as the future quarterback for the Houston Texans. Because when it comes to drafting you in the top 1, 2, or 3 picks of the draft, that doesn't mean you're going to be the franchise quarterback anymore. 20, 30, 40 years ago it did, because, back then you draft like a John Elway in 83. Of course, you're drafting him to be the franchise quarterback, even though, you got traded and all that other stuff. We'll go into that later. But when it comes to this right here, it's not always a guarantee when you take a quarterback in the top few picks of the draft that he is going to be your franchise quarterback in the future. And at least CJ Stroud was able to prove that growing fact over the course of the past 2 decades to be wrong. So good on CJ Stroud. Good on D'Amico Ryans for doing something that we are not privy to seeing, a rookie head coach having that type of success, leading the team to the playoffs and getting a first-round win as well, in doing what they did to advance in the playoffs, to go from the wild card victory over the Browns to the defeat to the Ravens, which, come on. When you're facing a Ravens team like that, when you have Lamar Jackson, who was clicking on all cylinders that day, your defense was clicking on all cylinders that day. They weren't the next week, but they were in this week, and that's when it mattered the most to get to the championship game. I'm glad that the Texans didn't win and get to the AFC Championship, because you see teams like the Tennessee Titans, like Mike Vrabel, who did that, and the expectations were set too high to where when the next season and then the year after that comes around and you don't make it that far again, you get punished for it. And that's basically what I think ownership was thinking over there in Tennessee, and they got it wrong. So for the Texans, I'm glad that it's going to be baby steps. Maybe next year go to the championship game, or even if you take a step back and you don't even make it out of the wild card round, but you still make the playoffs, I think you should still be happy with that, because it's the next 2 to 4 years I feel like is going to be what is going to be the most important time for the Houston Texans, CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryans, and their future with this organization. The next 2 to 4 years are going to be key for those two guys and the pieces that are around them for what they grow with. But for this year, based on the expectations of what they had to start the year and what they were doing the first half of the year till the end of the year, I'm giving them an A- because they never quit. They never gave up. They fought hard through and through. And for that, my grade, deservingly so in my opinion, is an A-.
Yeah. And to let you all know, the only grade that I would give 100 to on this show would be this. Drew, this is cakes. Shout out to you, Playmaker.
Okay. I had a feeling maybe, but I was trying to keep things within appropriation of our airwaves, as far as I'm just gonna be like, you baking a cake over there, you started a cooking show, but I do approve of that message as well. So,
I figured you would, sir. Yes.
Very, very, very nice. That made my morning right there. Very good.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Oh Lord. He says the Book of Faces crashed. Yeah, Lord.
It's apparently been down for about 20 plus minutes now. So I'm glad that we do not stream to Facebook in this moment. For those of you out there who'll be trying to watch, and you should be watching YouTube, because YouTube's on every single device in mankind now. So YouTube is where it's at. Check out Comey Media, Sotoba Media, and Latina and Cali is in the house. My day is made. I have not seen Latina and Cali in a while. This you go from cakes to Latina and Cali. This has been the best 2 minutes of this show so far. I'm sorry, even though we've had some great times so far in the past hour and a half. This is my favorite moment right here. And Sick is here too. Dante's here. We got all the crew here. I'm loving it like McDonald's.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Lentina and Callie. She says, "Yeah, I'm sorry I haven't caught y'all more." Well, I'm glad you're here, and we understand that it is real early in the morning for you, although it's just close to 8 where you are. But it's good to see you. It's been a minute to see you, girl.
I'm just glad that you're okay, because I was
Yeah.
actually thinking about you the other day. So, because I still got some of that elderberry syrup, and I had a little bit of a cold, from back when she told me about using it during COVID, and I had a little bit of a cold. Throat was a little dry. Took a little elderberry syrup. Bam, felt fine. Was able to talk fine. Good. So it was a great little suggestion that she made for me back then.
I love that. I love the fact that we have family here that wants to help. I love that. I love that. All right. So, Playmaker says the only time Cole turned the other cheek when it comes to no. I love Nashville. Don't get it twisted. I love Nashville. I love the city. I love the people. It's the Tennessee Titans that I have an issue with. And the only time I'll root for them is if it helps the Texans. That's the only time I'll root for them. That's the only time I'll root for the Titans. Otherwise, I'd want them to be destroyed. Heck, I'll put it this way. I root hard for the Cowboys to beat the Titans. And I mean root hard for them to beat the Titans. That is how much I cannot stand the Titans. Dante says, for a team to talking about the Texans, for a team to accomplish what they did was amazing. However, welcome to the AFC with the best quarterbacks in the league. Let me see: Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. Oh, and yes, there's this guy in KC. I forgot his name. Oh yeah, Patrick Mahomes. All reside. I agree with you. They are arguably the best teams. Are going to be tough but fun to watch. And this is almost reminding me of when I was younger, like when I was back in high school, where you had Elway in Denver, you had Marino in Miami, you had Moon in Houston, you had trying to think. I think O'Brien was on his downturn with the Jets. You were starting to have Kelly come of age in Buffalo. You had Asias in Cincinnati. You had Kosar in Cleveland. The AFC was loaded with some really good QBs in the late 80s. And it looks like the mid 2000s is starting to 2020s is starting to look that way for the AFC when it comes to quarterbacking, and it's going to be really good to watch, and it's going to be really fun to watch. I agree with you, Dante. Let's see, Playmaker says the AFC South grade. He gives the Titans a D, the Colts a C, the Jaguars a straight up F, and the Texans an A. Well, hey. And he says he's shocked. Tell him, Dante, he's shocked that Vrabel didn't get a job. I'm shocked he didn't get one. I'm trying to remember if they fired him after almost all of the head coaching vacancies were taken. I'm trying to remember when he got fired because it wasn't right after the season. I don't think was over. Oh, Six says a couple heart shaped cakes in there. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Oh, and she goes, ooh, la, la. And thank you for the love. Totally appreciate that. Totally appreciate that. Thank you, girl. Oh, you something else, Latina. Love you. Love you. Six says good morning to the Playmakers Network and Latina as well. And she says, howdy. Howdy. And Six says, hello. That's Norwegian for hello. Nice. Thank you, girl. It's good to see you. Good to see you. Valhalla God of War. Yes, we've heard this phrase as of late. WWE, I think, is using it for one of their characters. But yeah, I give the Texans an A. I got to give it A minus too. It'd be hard for me to give them an A. And if I were to give them an A, I think people would consider me a homer. So I say A minus because you said it best. There's still more meat left on the bone, and I am absolutely glad that they did not have one of those wonderful seasons where they had the inexplicable upset, and then they're in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, and then people are like, "Well, can the Texans make it to the Super Bowl next year?" And I'm like, "This team is too young. This team is too young." And you remember when we picked that divisional round game between the Texans and the Ravens, I said, look, this has been a great season. I didn't expect them to get this far, but the journey stops here because they're playing against a better squad than the Ravens. They just are. And and the second half proved me correct. So I love the direction of this team. And dare say I think they have the best direction of the division now because they're growing on both sides of the ball. I mean, offensively, they got pieces that can last them a good while. The only issue I have with them is I want them to get a running back, and I want them to build more depth on the offensive line. The offensive line played better, but I don't like the way they're presently constituted. I don't like how they are. I think they need to build a little more on the offensive line. And I really would love for them to get at least come close to getting a 3-down back. Because look, I can say, well, Devin Singletary had a really good year. Yeah. But he did the same thing with the Bills. He'll have a great game here, and then he'll disappear the next game. Then he'll have a great game here, and he'll disappear the next 2-3 games. No, they need to have a guy who can actually carry the load. So hopefully they get one in the draft, or they can get one in free agency. But I think they're going to get one in the draft. Defensively, they got some great pieces to build around. Will Anderson is one, Brian Cashman's another, and Darryl Stingley in the secondary is another. They got Derek Stingley. They got some really good pieces defensively that they can build around. I'm like, man, this team really looks good for the future. It looks like they're set up for big things. And it looks like, to me, they lapped the Jaguars, because I actually thought the Jaguars would be the class of the division for a minute. But they regressed so badly and so hard to where the Texans look like they just took them out and said, okay, give me that. And now they're the team that, to me, they look like they're the class of the AFC South. Forget the record and forget the 2023 season. Going forward, I'm like, man, I'm loving their future more than I'm liking their past, because I think they can build on their future really, really well. And I can't really see that for the other three teams. Of the other three, I can say the Colts probably have the best shot of doing it, but I think they have too many pieces to unload for them to get to where where the Texans got to where they actually feel as though, okay, we got the right pieces on both sides of the ball. The Jaguars have the talent, but I'm not sure they have the confidence now. And that is a dangerous thing, because they got talent. They got talent on both sides of the ball. In fact, to me, even to this moment, I think they have more experienced talent than the Texans do, but the confidence isn't there. And that is a problem. That's a problematic thing. And you got a young squad in the Texans that are up and coming, and now they're playing with house money to boot, and now they have experience to boot as well. I'm like, I'm loving what I'm seeing with the Texans. I really am. And I'm saying this not as a fan. I'm saying this as an analyst. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of the Texans. And, man, it's going to be great to see them. It's going to be great to see them. Well, the reason why you haven't heard of the Ravens, Latina, is we have graded teams, and we actually graded the division that they were in, the AFC North, last week. So we talked about them. And, yeah, we did talk about their devastating collapse in the AFC Championship game against the now Super Bowl champion and new dynasty, the referee-aided Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, you know why I said that.
But back to your point about this Texas team being very young. I mean,
yeah.
Usually I say this, when you got so many people that were born after the year 1998, you can't trust. Okay. But over there in Houston, you can. They are doing their job. And as long as they can keep that momentum going forward and don't have a sophomore slump this year, I think this could be a pretty exciting team to watch for years to come.
I think what will help them is it looks like CJ Stroud has a real good level head on his shoulders. I was hoping the same for Deshaun Watson. It just wasn't the case with him because obviously he wanted to tend to another head, but I won't talk about that. Which actually made him immature. But I think you have the great brain trust with CJ Stroud and with DeMeco Ryans. And seemingly to me, I think DeMeco, who could have suffered from having rookie mistakes on the sideline, he really made some really good decisions too. And he learned a lot from some really good coaches. Of course, the last of them being Kyle Shanahan. And we'll talk a little bit more about them and him next week. But if DeMeco can have a steady head, pause, and CJ Stroud could have a steady head, pause, then I think the Texans could go far. And it would be like Aaliyah. Age ain't nothing but a number. And hopefully it will be nothing but a number for them. However, I do agree with you. Sometimes, oh Lord. All right.
I thought you were going to say adults need a bedtime story too.
Well, yeah, those definitely need bedtime stories. Yes. But no, I had the flashback to when I was in the military, and one of the first lessons I learned was from the basic training captain that I was under. And so there's about 400 of us. We're sitting in a room that is the size of like a conference room.
What?
Yeah. So the captain
It's a small
comes
conference
in.
room.
Yeah. So the captain comes in and he's looking at us and he says, Lord. And I'm embarrassed by the thought, but I got to say this quote. In my time. Oh, let me, before I do the quote, let me erase that quote. Close quote. Let me erase that real quick. So picture this guy being black, looking like he's 60, but he's like 35. And when I mean looking, he's like 60, he has gray hair, but he's young. He's older than he looks. So black guy. And when you hear how I'm saying it with him, you would be surprised it's coming out of a black guy. But he says to us, quote, now, pride's in my time in being in the military, I learned of one thing, and one thing that has served me well. Prides, they do dumb. Nah, what do prides do, prides? Dumb. Sir, that wasn't loud enough, prides. Y'all gotta act like y'all got balls in you when you say it. What do prides do, prides? Dumb. Sir. 400 of us had to say it so loud that it had to reverberate off the walls. That's what I'm talking about. Prides do dumb. Close quote. So yes, I'm aware that youth can have a way of just screwing you. Yes, I understand that. Hopefully it won't be for the Texans because I like the makeup of this team. And I think they have what it takes to go further than they did this year, next year. Even if they do, and you made a really good point. Even if they do take a step back and they lose the wild card round, because I think it'll be better for them to a slighter degree to do that. So Latina asks, so what's today's rundown? Well, we just got finished grading two divisions in the NFL, and we're about to go through some stories. One of them is going to be, of course, we're going to talk about Jason Kelce. We're also going to talk about people possibly leaking signs to teams. Six says, Drew, would you ever sport a goatee like Jim the Anvil Neidhart?
I have. I'll have to find the picture and bring it up here on a show, or maybe on D Willie in the evening next weekend. Bing, on Sunday for episode 14. Yeah, maybe if I can find it, I will bring it on up there, as I had to bring the Kyle Nash Bing out there for the Ready to Rock and advertisement of D Willie in the evening.
Oh my goodness! I think you came close to seeing one when you did the peanut butter and jelly spot. But it might have been my eyes.
You talking about the beard?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was the whole beard was there, but I think he's just talking about having just
he's talking about the goatee
with the goatee out,
hanging it down. Yeah,
I think at that time I just had the entire beard, like I just let my face go, like I was halfway to homeless or something.
Yeah,
but yeah, that right there, I have had it. Just got to find the pictures of the past. I will show you their sick dig.
Nice. And 6 says, the soulful ballads of Cole Sports are brought to you by Boogie Down Karaoke, home of the Manila style karaoke. Lights on, mics on, karaoke on. And Yuckmouth Dental Insurance. Either keep it minty or keep it shut.
Can it be tangy like tangerines? Because that's how mine is right now. Is that okay?
It might be. So apparently Latina is a gamer. Did not know that either. That's cool.
What's up? You look me up on Xbox. Runs with scissors.
She says, sick. Not really, but I've heard part of the word holla in that Valhalla. I support a lot of channels because I have a wide range of interests, which I love that about you. I do. 6 says, all things considered, the Texans found their happy ending with Watson's departure. Even though I know you mean that to be comedic, there's a lot of truth to that statement. There's a lot of truth to that statement. Seriously. Latina says, I like watching other people play games, but I don't care to play them too much. I do like Need for Speed because it's simple on PlayStation. I don't, though, like how the media invents fake kings and queens like Kelce and Swift. I don't really consider them a king nor a queen. It's just, they're there. She says, I think these women are discussing how they flaunt the new flutes of the week, month, year, whatever. They're going to twerk on and then move on to the next pipe. Man, I wish I had a bike. I dropped that thing fast. Oh, that girl's telling the truth. Keep on. I love it. I love it. Oh man. Well, that ends these rounds of on the opening drive of beating grades. Next week, the NFC West and the AFC West will be on tap. I know that'll make Snowman happy and upset all at the same time. We'll be back with the Gridiron Scoop right after this.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Hey!
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason.
Ready to hang with some fellas who know football? Let's ride. LC Muscles 28.
I think they're the most overrated defense in the league.
Steel Sermon.
We did not trail for a single second.
Tiny Tim.
McCarthy is a bonehead.
A Pizzle 90.
I'm going with my boys. Fins up, baby.
Get ready for the Four Horsemen of Peckham's. Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on YouTube. Poppy J.
You got the option to cry for the government. You got the option to protest. You got the option to keep buying, but this is also an option.
Wise El Jefe.
We're the first tech geeks. We're the first gamers. We're the first everything. Everything. Like Gen X's, we are the ones.
BS3 Network proudly presents the crew from the New York boroughs who never wants that smoke. Nah, they want that fire. Bobby J and Wise El Jefe. Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk. Drew Willingham. Well, with Drew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson, and that was one wonderful opening drive. Totally appreciate the love that you all sent us, and I appreciate my partner who was with me to have me tell my Army story, and one of the many Army stories I could tell, and and I tried to actually fit that for airwaves to do that as well. And the wonderful grades that you all put forth. So thank you for the participating, and hopefully you will do so even further, because now we will get to the Gridiron Scoop. So apparently the UFL, yes, not to be confused with the USFL or the XFL, they're expected to provide an update on team uniforms for the upcoming season next week, and their season begins in about 3. Many of the anticipated league announcements for the 2024 season of the UFL have already arrived during the new calendar year, and the newly merged USFL-XFL merger, it unveiled its league rules and teams and TV schedules and coaching staffs, etc., etc. One of those new rulings are the kickoffs that you used to see with the XFL, where they're going back to how the NFL does it. So it's going to be that type of kickoff setup. But one area that has not been addressed yet is what the uniforms will be looking like for the upcoming season when they kick off 3 Saturdays from this coming Saturday. Sources inside the league have informed Sports Illustrated that an update on the new league uniforms will come sometime over the weekend. And teams have already begun practicing in pads in league centralized training camps, like in the Arlington area. And teams are also expected to conduct joint practices and scrimmages. My question to you, sir, is which uniforms are you looking forward to see being unveiled?
You know, that I've got a few that I'm actually really excited about. I'd start to say the Memphis Showboats, a team coming from the USFL to now the lazily named UFL, in my opinion. We've gone through that several times, but Memphis Showboats would be one. I would say the Houston Roughnecks, the Michigan Panthers. I mean, these teams that are coming over from the USFL to the XFL, now merged into the UFL. I'd like to see if the DC Defender jerseys kind of change, because they changed from XFL 2.0 to XFL 3.0, I guess we can call it, from the past year to the second go around under the VKM tenureship. But I think the 3 teams that are coming over from the USFL, I think I got to be excited about those 3 that I mentioned right there. Of course, the Birmingham Stallions, another one I'm interested in seeing as well. And, is St. Louis Battlehawks adjust their jersey scheme now that A.J. McCarron's coming back, and maybe to lead them to a new UFL championship, the first ever UFL championship that we would see from this spring, we could see. But, mainly the teams that are coming over from the USFL, I'm excited to see. And I would say probably the top one on my list would be the Memphis Showboats.
That'd probably be on the top of my list too. Because I want to see how the Showboats are going to look. Because the last time I remember them, it was 40 years ago. So I want to see how they look. And then after that, it's to me the Roughnecks. I want to see if they continue on with the the XFL uniforms, or if they're going to do a tweak and a change. And if they are going to try to probably incorporate some gambler stuff in there, I hope they don't. I really hope they don't, but who knows? Six says, who's a sports apparel company that would be providing UFL their uniforms? I forgot who it was. I could do some research on that real fast. Oh, cool. I'm so sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. You missed the cakes that we showed earlier, sir.
Rip On Athletic is the answer to that one.
Thank you, sir.
Who's providing the? It's not like a name brand like Nike or Reebok or anything like that. Like it's Rip On. So hopefully they don't rip off.
Oh.
But based out of Wisconsin, that is where Rip On is. So as long as it's not a rip off from Wisconsin, we'll be good to go.
Lord, only you would take that and make it a really good joke. All right. The only NFL team Mike Evans has ever played for has been the Buccaneers, and come 2024, that is not going to change. The wide receiver for the Bucs agreed to a 2-year deal a week before he was set to officially become a free agent, which of course that will be starting, I think, the 12th or 13th. His agent told ESPN the deal is worth $52 million and it's including a $35 million guarantee. Now, the Athletic reported last week that Evans was set on testing the open market free agency. He could have started legally speaking with other teams next Monday and would have officially become a free agent Wednesday, the 13th, which is the official start of the new league year, which is the start of when free agency kicks into high gear as well. The deadline for the Bucs to potentially place the franchise tag on Evans would have been today or Tuesday if you're watching this on replay, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. where Latina's out there in Cali. They drafted Evans 7th overall in 2014 out of A&M, Texas A&M, where he played with Heisman Trophy winner Johnny Manziel. My question to you, sir, is about the Bucs. According to Mike Evans, does this help or hurt them going forward?
I think the signing of him, the re-signing of him, definitely helps them going forward. They've only got him on a 2-year deal, and it's not like they're throwing the cap at him. So they've got still a good amount of cap room to go bring in other pieces around this team. You know, they need a little bit more help on the offensive line a little bit. I think they need another they need some more tight end help. But other than that, if you can continue to build around the weapons that you have in Tampa Bay, I think they can continue to build on the success they had last year as they were, doomed as a team that was going to be going backwards, terribly since losing Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II.
Junior.
I know. But hey, looking at this team right here, and based on what they were able to prove in this first season without him, and Mike Evans realizes that, he can go to the Chiefs and maybe get back to the Super Bowl this year if they continue to do the things that they've been doing over this half decade of greatness the Chiefs have had. But looking at the situation right here, I like this. I mean, most of us were wrong because we all thought that he was leaving Tampa Bay based on the fact that, they had a decent year last year, but it was only 9-8. It's not too much to get excited about. But the fact that Tampa Bay has found what could be their quarterback for the next 5 to 7 years easily in Baker Mayfield, I think that's a very enticing move. He really likes Baker. They gel well. And, earlier on in his career, I believe Mike Evans was touted for saying that he would like to retire in Tampa Bay. So, the fact that he's got a 2-year deal here, he's one step closer to making that a reality if he gets another contract after this, because he is, I believe, 31 years old. So, he still may get another contract opportunity after this. It may not be with Tampa Bay, but the past 2 times that this man has been a free agent, potential free agent, we've said he was going elsewhere, and he has proven us wrong. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and book it that he's going to retire in Tampa Bay. But at least we know that he's going to be there for another 2 years, and that they could be brewing up something special there, and you're part of the division there in the South.
That I like. And I think I'll put it this way. I believe that this was a win-win for all parties involved. It's a win for the team because it, like you said, it's a cap-friendly deal. It's a win for Evans because he actually does get paid money, and he gets paid the worth of his position and his production. And so they can revisit this in 2 years if he still is playing at a top level and if it's beneficial to the team. So it's really good for all parties involved. And it also helps them search for others who can come in and be a willing contributor to the team too. So I like where they're going. I like the direction, and hopefully they continue onward. And it's great to see Evans still a Buck. I'm glad that he is staying in Tampa. Debate about the controversial hip drop tackle is poised to get a lot more intense. The NFL Competition Committee is in the process of crafting a new rule, proposing that it could outlaw the dangerous tackling technique, much to the chagrin of defensive players. Some coaches in the NFL Players Association, of course, if adopted by team owners. The top football executive of the NFL, Troy Vincent, told a select group of media that included USA Today Sports that the competition committee is formulating language in a rule proposal that would define components of the hip drop technique that include a defender rotating his hips away from the ball carrier and dropping his weight on the opponent during the tackle. Now, my question to you, sir, is should the hip drop technique go the way of the horse collar tackle?
Yes. And I feel like we would have a little bit more of a success rate of that actually being called, because the horse collar is, the rule is there, but it's not really always called because it's not always caught. I mean, the hip drop, it'd be a little bit more obvious. The horse collar, there's ways that it can be disguised and certain techniques of tackling that we even saw in some important games this past year where there was no horse collars called. The hip drop, though, I feel like is a little bit more noticeable because like all of your weight is coming down on the player as you're tackling them. And, which could lead to more lower leg injuries, torn Achilles, whatever the case may be, ankle, knee, calf, whatever, all that can be affected in the way that this is being done. So it's not only rough on the person receiving the hit, but it's also rough on the person who's giving the hit in certain aspects. So it can, you can weigh your checks and balances on which one's a little bit more worse than the other. But I feel like we're at a point, even though, I will say it nice for the TFT airways, they've pacified the game of football in certain ways with some of these rule changes. I actually don't have a distaste for this one. I think that they should go away with this along with the horse collar and put it in that category.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I get why. I get that defenders are like, well, heck, I mean, how can we bring these players down? Well, unfortunately, the ball carriers are getting injured more and more when these techniques are being instituted. So if that's going to be the case, the NFL is going to be like, that's something you can't do. And they're going to look hard at thinking otherwise as to how you can bring ball carriers down. My man, Cool McCain, he is cold as ice. He says, my brothers. Oh, man. Our Eagles Elite podcast brother, our Monarchs of Wrestling co-host, along with, of course, playmaker. He says, sad day in Eagles Nation. Yes, alluding to Jason Kelce. We'll talk about him a little later. He says, no, not the cakes. I'll have to find them. About Mike Evans, he says, it's definitely a good move for Tampa and Evans. Yeah. I think it is too. Dante talking about the hip drop. He says, I get both sides of the argument, but it really sucks to see a quarterback or star player go out like that. But they need to pass something to help. They need pass something to help the defense. That's the problem that I'm having with that is they seem to, talking about the NFL, they seem to be gung-ho in passing legislation to help offensive players out, but they seem really reticent to do the same for the defense. And I'm thinking to myself, they're part of the game too. And I don't think they want to injure players. They just want to do their job. And this is how they are being taught to legally do their jobs. So yeah, have them not do something that will hurt players, but definitely have something that's beneficial to them as a defender. So they don't feel as though they already feel as though they're second-class citizens compared to offensive players, but make them feel like that they actually can contribute to and they are a part of the game because they are a huge part of it. They really are. Six says, will the referees be talking to players like Officer Joe Swanson from Family Guy? Lord. I should have known when this was putting question for him, it was going to be a joke. I should have known. Latina says, do you guys do blast or pass the sports? I currently don't, but I'm going to in the future. So I'm glad you actually said that.
Well, I was bringing up certain parts throughout certain episodes this year where I was doing like on this day in sports.
Mm-hmm.
So and more so in other programs, but if that's basically what you're talking about, like basically like on this day, talking about past events on that date in history, like yeah, we've done that before.
Yeah, and we'll probably do more of that here, obviously. But yeah, for a hardcore format, I'm going to be doing that in the future, and not because you asked that question. That's actually been in the works for me to do, and hopefully I'll be able to unveil it soon. But yeah, thank you for that question, Latina. Appreciate that. Dante says offensive players can't drop the heads, right, or leave with their crowns. Need to be called more, and that's the problem. That's a penalty, but that isn't called as much, and I don't get that. I'm like, that actually hurts defenders, but you don't. That's what I mean by second-class citizens. It's as if ball players can just do this, leave with their heads, and hit the defensive player, and they don't get flagged unless it's really egregious. I'm like, you got to protect them too. I mean, those 11 matter just as much as the 11 on the side of the ball that actually have the ball. So you got to protect them. Oh yeah, no problem. Glad you're interested in that too, because it lets me know that there's a market for that, and there's hunger for that. So I'm glad that you are amongst those people. Thank you, Latina. Mickey, he says, sorry I'm late. Yes, we know Facebook is down. Yeah, and my own job is actually saying, oh, the sky is falling about that. So yes, but we're glad you're here, Mickey.
There's people out there that are probably freaking out right now because they cannot get on there and see what Latanya's having for lunch.
Yeah, they all take.
And I bet it was a big
surprise, motherfucker.
You couldn't get on there and see what dish he was having for breakfast. And now lunch. And now Insta-Grizzle is down. And Face Bizzle is down. And your messenger is down. And it's a big
surprise, motherfucker.
All right. I've had my fun.
Oh my gosh. So as my partner stands on business.
What?
Stands on business.
What?
Stands.
What?
On
what?
Business.
What?
Oh, okay, fine. As my partner actually says this with his chest all stuck out and all puffy.
What?
Ah, Lord, we can finally move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Oh man, gosh, just like Wise, I cannot take you nowhere. Okay. the NFL world lost a valuable piece to the industry at large. Chris Mortensen on Sunday died at the age of 72 this past Sunday, a year after his retirement from the network ESPN that he called home for over 3 decades. Mortensen was a stalwart of NFL coverage for ESPN, appearing on Sunday NFL Countdown, SportsCenter, Outside the Lines, and among other programs on the network. Prior to joining ESPN, Mortensen won the George Polk Award in 1987 for sports reporting while with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Now, back in 2016, he revealed that he was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer, but he returned to the network later that year after positive strides were made fighting the disease. He leaves behind a storied career, and more than that, however, he left a bigger mark on his colleagues and the industry as a whole, as evidenced by the outpouring of love, support, and heartfelt tributes shared in the wake of his passing. Simply put, what are your thoughts about the late, great Chris Mortensen?
It's a big part of my childhood as far as sports coverage are now gone. I look back on the days of watching SportsCenter back in the 90s, 2000s, growing up and seeing Chris Mortensen on there talking football, a former quarterback, in the league, doing what he did, playing the game of football and then giving us that insider type scoop. Mortensen was great. It was unfortunate that, he passed away. I mean, 72 sounds old, or at least back in the day, but nowadays it's not as old as what we thought it would. In the advancements of technology, our lifespans are a little bit longer. So, 8 years ago, he was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer, survived that, and still, made it another 8 years after that. And still worked, So, I mean, he took some time off, of course, to get that treated and came back. But it was up until about a year ago that he was working and retired. Right. So, he had a long, lengthy career. But, when I look back on one of the anchors that kind of influenced me in my love for sports in my youth, I look at Chris Mortensen, I look at Stuart Scott, I look at Chris Berman. I mean, those are probably the top 3 and anchors for ESPN that I can say that at least it increased my interest in sports, and definitely with the way that they covered it. He always, Chris Mortensen was the Adam Schefter of today 20 years ago when it came to breaking coverage within the NFL, whether it was trades, signing. And Adam Schefter has evolved, more over the past 5-10 years. But that was more so because Chris Mortensen was taking more so of a step back, and preparing, I guess, for his exit as he was getting older, because he still worked till he was 71 years old. I mean, which most people are trying to retire by mid-60s, at 70 at the latest. He still worked until 71. So, the man had a long, lengthy career in and outside of the lines and covering within the lines outside of the game as well. So, it wasn't like it was this one. It definitely hurt, but at the same time, I think Stuart Scott's, passing was a little bit more of a harder hit to home because of how young he was when he passed away. Chris Mortensen had another 20 plus years on Stuart Scott in his lifespan. So it wasn't like it was a sudden, one that kind of hit too hard, but it still takes me back to, reminiscing of the younger days of my life, my childhood, the earlier days of ESPN before the internet, before things took off, when you had more of a limited supply of your coverage. We didn't have this, like you and I talking on here for podcasts. You didn't have like the Pat McAfee show, other things where you have a lot more sources to get your coverage, to get your entertainment within your coverage. Chris Mortensen was part of the smaller selection back in the day of what we had to watch on cable television. So it does hit hard for that aspect, thinking about the nostalgic factor, but just glad the man's at peace. He's resting well now, and that his fight is over after 8 years of battling, cancers within.
Yeah. It's cancer. It's it's horrible, and you don't want anyone to really suffer from that. I'm glad that he was able to work for years after his original diagnosis. So yeah, kudos to him and the legacy that he left behind. Sports journalism will not be the same. He was one of the best to ever do it. You could tell that he really loved football. He had a real huge, hardcore passion for it, and there's going to be a void now because he's gone. Let me see. Six says condolences to the Mortensen family. Yeah, and I think we share that same sentiment. And so as we to the next segment, Chris Mortensen, ESPN insider and sports journalist and NFL fan more than anything, actually, passes away at the age of 72.
Total football talk.
Where my dogs at? It's time to award the grand champ for this week. And look, if you have one, it's fine. If not, it's fine too. Doesn't matter. But here's his grand champ, one Mr. Drew Cunningham.
I think I'm going to give this one for this past week to, someone that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, to Jason Kelce, after 13 years with the Eagles, what he accomplished in that time frame, going to 2 Super Bowls, winning 1, for him to get his flowers this week, I think that he has earned the Grand Champ of the Week award. And without divulging too much, because I want to be able to save it for our upcoming, topics in the chopping block, I just want to basically state that my champ of the week is going to Jason Kelce.
And a wonderful choice. I have to admit, wonderful choice. Well, I will actually not go with Jason Kelce, although he deserves every bit of the praise. And of course, I will reserve comment for him when we talk about him later too. But yeah, this is definitely going to Chris Mortensen. I grew up wanting to be Bryant Gumbel, wanting to be Kevin Riley, and even wanting to be Tavis Smiley. And the last makes me wince a little bit because, well, I didn't want to be how he was. That made him exit the journalism and the broadcast stage. But lost in what I wanted to be like, Chris Mortensen was one of them. And the moment I heard him was a breath of fresh air, because I learned. So this is what it's like when you get to talk about something and you love it, and you get paid for it too. You love this sport, you love the inner workings of it, and you get paid to talk about it. You get paid to report on it. And his lesson is a big, and I mentioned this in the positive and present tense sense, is a beautiful, positive thing for me, because it lets me know that my journey is not over. In fact, my journey is just beginning. So for a Chris Mortensen that paved the way when I was nothing more than a wee young lad, I now can stand before you and say that I will stand on his shoulders along with others, Stuart Scott being another, in doing what I love the most, which is this. So, Chris, thank you, my friend. Thank you for everything you've done. And I love you, and I wish your family wonderful, wonderful grieving. And I hope that you all celebrate the memories of what your husband or father or brother or whatever relationship you have with him brings you. May the memories warm you, and may the memories help you grieve, because he was a wonderful man and we were on the outside looking in with him. So thank you, Chris, and may you rest in peace. We'll be right back. Which one? There we go.
Next, the chopping block and snowflake of the week. This is Total Football Talk. Join Ryan McCarthy.
I became a Jets fan because Kurt the Frog was my favorite Muppet because he was green, and the Jets wore green. That's how I became a Jets fan.
And Dustin Henry.
ESPN is cashing all in on let's pay a few personalities and we'll just kind of fill in the gaps.
As they walk you through all of the world of sports from their perspective.
The Albany Empire, it's a literal circus.
No credentials required. Where, Ryan, say the tag.
Where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. On YouTube and where you can find all podcasts. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to do a TED Talk, but I don't have anything to talk about yet. I'm getting there.
Life is for the living. We're not here that long.
You can learn anything you want to learn without any money spent.
What do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life?
I am your host, WIZE.
Are you in a life holding pattern? Well, this is for you. Welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast. Live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central. Football, and more football, you say? Well, tune in to Total Football Talk. Join your hosts, Drew Willingham.
You were playing like a dumpster Pelican quarterback.
And Cole Johnson.
It sets up a possible play action. Did you hear that, Dak Prescott?
As they take you through all the paces, both on the field and in the boardroom, of Total Football Talk. Every Tuesday at
9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central.
Exclusively on the Sertoba Media and the Comey Media Incorporated YouTube channel.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson. It is a pleasure to do this with you guys. Oh, Lord. All right.
Hike.
And Ike says, Mick is back from Trollville. Oh, have mercy.
Well, that was definitely a
surprise, motherfucker.
It was. I didn't know where that came from.
Probably a comment that I didn't put forth and won't.
I see it now. Yeah. I see it now. Come on, Mick.
6 says he thinks that there should be stricter concussion protocol, thinking about when offensive players decide to go head first and ram themselves into defensive players. He says officials need to do more when players suffer concussion during the game. Look no further than Tua Tagovailoa, because I really believe the whole game, forget the Dolphins, I believe the NFL did him a total disservice in how they allowed him to be on the field being concussed, and he suffered another one only 4 days later. A stricter concussion protocol throughout the entire league should happen. Yeah.
I mean, Tua got lucky there was no lasting effects from that into this past year because,
yes,
based on what you just said from 2022, I wouldn't have imagined him to have the bounce back year like he did this past year. Even though you have Joe Flacco getting the comeback, I feel like Tua he deserved it just as much because of what he went through in 2022.
Yeah, he did. And oh, by the way, he got a Christmas present to us 22. Another concussion. I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, I'm like, dude, good Lord, NFL, you got to do better than that. But hopefully Hopefully they have, and I'm thankful that this year Tua didn't suffer one. I am. Cool says BIB coming soon. You right, baby. You right. BIB. Oh yeah. But also what's coming up is a chopping block. Speaking of the Dolphins, a lawyer for the Dolphins All-Pro wide receiver Tyreek Hill said the allegations against his client broke a woman's leg last year while doing football drills are simply not true. And let me see if I can find it real fast. Oh, here we go. They also, he said, was, quote, baseless, close quote. Now, Hill is accused by Sophie Hill of battery, assault, negligence, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, according to a civil lawsuit filed last month. According to a statement released to ESPN, Hill's attorney, Julius B. Collins, said that Hall's lawsuit was filed only to, quote, generate bad publicity for Mr. Hill in an attempt to scare tactic him into personally covering the cost of Miss Hall's medical bills. Close quote. The lawsuit says on June 28th that while at Hill's residence, she caused Hill to fall backwards, evoking laughter from witnesses. Hill then charged into Hall violently with great force, resulting in significant and serious injuries. She claims that Hill did not seek medical attention for her and that she had surgery for the broken leg when she went home. My question to you, sir, is it possible Tyreek Hill's past may catch up with him in this latest incident?
It's possible. It is definitely possible because, you know, when you're playing backyard football with a female, like you're playing contact football in the NFL. I mean, don't get me wrong. You talk about cakes earlier, Cole Johnson, in your picture. She definitely sports the cake pretty well, okay? And has plenty of it around, okay? To where you would think maybe if you're Tyreek Hill, she could withstand some impact because of the cake around, okay? Because of the comfortness around, the extra padding around. Not saying that she's a big girl or what I'm saying. None of that. I'm saying that it's just proportion. Go look at the picture. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But no, just because you see that image right there, you are Tyreek Hill, you're chiseled, you're a wide receiver in the NFL, one who went video game quite hard this past year. Well, you went quite hard into her playing backyard football. You were supposed to be taking care of her 10-year-old son in a training drills in football, not invite the mom over to the house and play football. If you want to invite the mom over to the house, you have a nightcap in a different way, not by playing football. You save the football for the field, for your training camp, for your drills, for what you're doing out there in between the lines. You leave the moms out of it. This case right here, if you deserve to be punished in this case, I feel like you do. I'm not saying throw the book at him, but yeah, he's going to need to cough up some of those Benjamins over there, quite a bit of Benjamins, and make this go away. Is it as bad as what Deshaun Watson experienced in Houston? No. Okay. It's not like he had a little pain in his shoulder from what you were saying and had to go get the towel and, you know, all of this stuff that you do oh so great with that I love when you grab it, you pull it all over and all that stuff. No, you don't have to worry about this in this case, but you played tackle football with an OnlyFans model who doesn't look like she's playing like roller derby, like any type of contact sports for females. Okay. So when I put all that in perspective, Tyreek Hill might have had a little glimpse of the CTE or something when he was putting his thoughts together of should I go in full force into this woman or not? As she's getting in the defensive stance and he's on the other side in the offensive stance. No, I do not agree with his decision making here. I think he needs to give up some Benjamins, make this go away, make her feel better. Whatever you got to do to make it right, you can do it there, Tyreek Hill. All the spotlight's on. Here we go.
You said cakes. Oh, yeah, girl. You know, I love cakes because I love sinking my teeth into it. That wonderful sugary goodness. I love the icing. Oh, yeah. I love the shape. And holding it, it feels so nice and so soft. Oh, yeah. And then I love to watch you go, and I love watching you leave. Yeah. Towel. Yeah. Let's get to work. Sit your butt down and do me a favor. Scoot that cake right in my view. Oh, yeah. Perfect. Oh, that's perfect right there. Oh, yeah. I'm about to. Delete. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Oh, I don't know what happened. Lord have mercy. It's like the ghost of Deshaun Watson just hit me. I don't understand it. Oh, anyway. Look, Tyreek, you got to be careful, dog. I mean, you can't be playing tackle football with women in the backyard. I mean, geez, man. Good Lord. I just no. Oh, what am I doing, Cole? I was channeling Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, he did. Dante's probably missed those parts where earlier in the season we're doing the Deshaun Watson in the reenactment of what happened in Houston. Grab the my favorite part when you're grabbing the towel. Everything else is great, but when you're grabbing the towel, over it's my favorite part. Everything else is great, but it's like that's the icing on the cake.
Yes,
you reach over and grab the towel. It's my favorite part.
Latina says, "Look, never forget what Keen Troll always says: all thoughts are lies at all lies at the same time." Ain't no lie told there.
Even Ike's hollering at you. Latina said, "What up, G?"
Yeah, I know. Latina, woman, what up, G? Trying to Mac, huh? All right, Ike. I see you. I see you, player.
He just put the FOK in that one.
Oh, Playmaker says penalty flag on the play. Unnecessary roughness of Cole Watson.
Cole Watson.
Oh Lord. Cole, I read that wrong. I'm sorry. That's
going to be your new alter ego when you go into the Deshaun Watson, Cole Aloysius Watson.
I'm sorry. All thoughts are all lies. All thoughts are all lies all the time. I'm sorry. My bad. King Troll. But come on, Tyree. You got to be careful in that, man. I mean, dude. Look, it's fun to play games with women, yes, but you can't act as though that you put the pads on and you're playing with her and she's not padded and you're not either in the backyard. And if you didn't think this was going to result, then something must be wrong with you, dude. Jeez.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Cole Hardman and the New York Jets would both like to forget about their brief time together. Shout out to you, Ryan McCarthy. Just days after Hardman admitted that he, how did he put it? He, quote, checked out, close quote. During his 5-game stint with the team, reports surfaced alleging the wide receiver leaked New York's game plans to opposing teams, chiefly, you see what I did there, the Chiefs and the Eagles. Harbin denied the accusation Friday on social media, saying on X, quote, they were false accusations made about me and my character. To set the record straight, I have never and would never leak game plans to another team. I have never been a person to give an opponent an upper hand. I always want to win, no matter the circumstances. Close X quote. My question to you, sir. How does this make him look in the Chiefs locker room?
One hand, maybe like a hero because he's helping the team out. And on the other hand, could be potentially a traitor, because he could be potentially doing that to other teams. I think that, his loyalty just lies within his Chiefs kingdom, because that's where he started. But I think that this is more of a question for the other 31 locker rooms in the NFL outside the Chiefs locker room, because at some point, if the facts do come back as true, even though he's denying it, and he becomes a free agent at some point again, or has to go to another team, whether he's via traded or he signs another team or has the option to, they're gonna maybe have to give this a second thought before they actually pull the trigger on signing him, because will he be loyal to our team? He's definitely never going back to the Jets at this point. So 30 of those other teams, you would say, eliminate the one. But yeah, definitely not a good look for him leaving outside of the Chiefs. But it didn't backfire within the 2023 season, but this could also be the highest of peaks for Mecole Hardman in the NFL, because we've seen other players in the past try to find shortcuts to success. And eventually, when they did get to that success, because of that shortcut, after that point, that was their peak and they went downhill. So, yes, exactly. Cool McCain about the loyalty. Exactly. So, when it comes to money and stuff nowadays, I mean, money buys everything, it seems like. So, people overall are not loyal, and especially in the situation that, just 20 years ago, you wouldn't have been ousted like this because of the advancements of technology and social media when it works, apparently, because from what we've heard since we've been on the show, I haven't checked, but apparently Facebook is down. So, and freaking Instagram too. So I bet people are losing their minds right now because little Johnny can't watch what Tanya had for lunch. But when it comes to this right here, this situation, I would have to say, in the Chiefs locker room, probably not that big of a deal. In the other 31 locker rooms around the league, yes, it is a big
deal. Okay. So I'm with you. Obviously, the Jets are not going to take any flyer on Hardman ever. That's obvious. I think this will make the other 30 teams look at Hardman side-eyed. And I agree. I think for the reason of he scored the game-winning touchdown of their most latest Super Bowl, I think he'll get a pass in the locker room right now. But I know that it will be a thought if Hardman is begging for the ball and he doesn't get it, and the Chiefs take an L, that you have the coaching staff and other players look at him and say, Mecole, you leak our game plan to the Broncos. Is there something that you ain't telling us? It's just human nature. And then, like you said, now I think he's put himself in a position, whether he did this or not. At least this is putting himself in a position, or at least the Jets are putting him in a position where he's not going to get a look anywhere now. I mean, it's either the Chiefs or bust with him. And that's scary to think about. That's scary. Oh, Cool says, cream fraiche. Giggity.
I love Family Guy.
I do too. Latina says, Cole, maybe you should start a channel where you read spicy novels. Use that voice. Thank you. I probably will have to do that. She also asks, what's the average aged men's retiring from the football scene. The average for a football player right now, I think it's like 4.5 years, they say. And I actually say that trend's low when they say that. I think it's more like 6 or 7, because that's the shelf life they give running backs, about 4 years. But yeah, 4.5 years is what I've heard. People who study that say that's the shelf life for at least for pro football. You get out of college and get into pros. 4 years in the NFL, 4.5 years, and I'm thinking, yeah, maybe longer, but yeah. She says the novel reading channels seem to grow well. Okay. I may need to hit you up and show me those channels, because I might not only have to read them, I'm gonna have to write them too. Cool says these hoes ain't loyal. Hey, these hoes ain't loyal.
You like that? You like that?
I'm sorry. Let me start channeling Chris Brown. But look, McCall, you gonna have to step real lightly in these streets and prove that in NFL you are not one to backstab, because you know when the very first comes to KC in the 2024 season, and you got number 15 being real upset with you, you can't lean on the excuse that you blacked out. Know that, son.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
The Players Association decided to give their report cards for the last season. And the grades that were given from the members of the NFL Players Association have been submitted. For the second straight year, your beloved Washington Commanders were ranked the worst team overall by their own players, based on the 11 categories related to working conditions. Managing partner Josh Lou Harris and his ownership group, of course, along with it, Magic Johnson, received a B and ranked 18th in the league at the end of their first season. But the team, though, did not finish above 25th in any other category except for strengths coach. They were 5th, and they got the grade of an A. The back-to-back defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs were a clear indicator that coaches and ownership, they're not so often viewed in the same light. Take, for example, head coach Andy Reid, A+ from players. The owner, Clark Harden, on the other hand, a big fat F in willingness to invest in team facilities. The Chiefs finished 31st overall due to the quality of care the players received from the training staff and the outdated facilities. But the Chiefs unveiled renderings for a reimagined Arrowhead Stadium this past week. But shh, you didn't hear from me. The Cardinals finished 31st last year, they moved up to 27th, though, this past year. My question to you, Mr. Willingham, is this a legitimate problem, or should we not concern ourselves with this rating?
I would be concerned about this if they were a mediocre team, mediocre to bad team. A team with the type of storied history within the league as they've had now for, well over 5 decades, now 5-6 decades. The Chiefs have, especially in the past 5 years, built this dynasty where they've been to 4 Super Bowls, winning 3 of them. Yeah. And, unfortunately, health hasn't been that big of an issue for them overall. Mm-hmm. But these players have been pretty young in this time frame, minus Kelce, who's getting older now, is approaching mid-30s, is a tight end, has another year or 2 left probably, and then he's out. But you definitely need to consider making upgrades in your technology, in wherever you have your treatment facilities for this. But you just dropped a bomb earlier with what you said, part of your statement right there. So I guess it's going to be the improvement. But as of today in present day, going backwards and ranking their healthcare, you know, I would say that you bringing up the Redskins at that point, that when they had that name, when they were ranked as low as they were back then, you know, it's wild that they don't even have that low of a ranking at this point. They've moved up, so I'm happy for my team on that one. But it's bad when you have the Super Bowl champs ranked at 31st. And when what I just said, Super Bowl champs ranked at 31st, when you put all that in the equation, I don't know if this grade right here really makes a difference. I'm kind of 50-50 with this. This is probably the first time in the 27 episode history of our program that I'm going to sit here and say that I'm at a push. I'm at a draw, because it really doesn't make a difference neither here nor there. However, it's not a good look for the Super Bowl defending champion, the back-to-back Super Bowl defending champion.
No.
So they need to hear the noise. The Hunt family has been in charge of this team since it was, you know, pretty much established. So when I think about that, they need to hear the noise, especially from the fans. You know, you've had multiple things now come out besides the grade now on this, but then the debacle at the parade. You need to figure some things out over there in Kansas City, and it all stems with the care of individuals. There needs to be a little bit more, I guess, security, or a little better of a program for parade situations over there in Kansas City, for one. And now you need to figure out this healthcare situation for your treatment of your players during the season, prior to the season for the training, and even postseason when they're in recovery to get ready for the next season, as long as they're under contract with you. So when I put all that in perspective, I'm at a push, because it doesn't really matter about the grade, yet I still feel like you need to hear the noise and address it and make the necessary changes to improve.
Here's what's the funny part about what you said. Now, Lamar Hunt was considered one of the greatest owners in the NFL in the history of the sport. And, you know, people were like, well, we want to play for KC because of him. And now you're having people say, we do want to play in KC, but it's actually because of that lovable big red that's on the sideline, not necessarily you, Clark. And it's amazing to see how the perception of the ownership group and the ownership area for KC has shifted and changed. Because, like I said, when you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the Hunt family has owned the Chiefs since they were the Dallas Texans, so they weren't even in KC, and Lamar Hunt still owned them. So the Hunt family has been the only ownership group and only ownership family the Chiefs have known ever since they moved into KC. So, yeah, I mean, you do have a stadium that people do rave about in Arrowhead that now is 52 years old. And yes, they have made upgrades and they've made tweaks and they've done some up and some renovations over the years. But let's be honest. I mean, Arrowhead Stadium is a nice stadium, no question. But you compare it to SoFi and AT&T Stadium, and it looks archaic. It just does. And that's not the crap on the stadium. That just, I mean, when you have state-of-the-art stuff that's in one stadium, but you have a lot less state-of-the-art stuff in another, you know. But that being said, I can see why the players are like, oh, we go to these other stadiums, and heck, in the visitors' locker room, in the visitors' place, we get better amenities than here at home. I get that. I do. I also agree with you. I think these NFLPA grades aren't necessarily being taken so seriously by the ownership group. I don't think the owners really care. I think the owners are like, you get what we put out there. Well, I think we put out, no matter what team, we believe we put out state-of-the-art stuff for you to be the best player you can be. You're going to have to just simply sit there and take in the amenities that we provide for you. And that, I think, is I think is humbling to the NFLPA, which I have said, if I haven't said it enough here, I will shout this out. The NFL Players Association is the weakest labor union in all of sports.
Facts.
I can run down the list and bore you guys for the next 3 hours as to why I believe they are the worst labor union the sports scene has ever witnessed. Heck, I think the NCAA could come up with, and I'm talking about college football and basketball, I think they can come up with a labor union that's better than the NFLPA. That's how bad they are. And so it's great. It's cute. And I hate to say it, I'm sort of taking it from the owner's perspective. Oh, it's great. It's cute. Yeah, these millionaires are telling us billionaires, okay, we suck. Well, I guess we're gonna have to suck longer. Oh well, because I don't think they respect as a whole. I'm not saying that certain owners don't respect their players. Don't get it twisted. But I'm talking about the ownership group as a whole. The 31 owners and the one president that runs the Packers. As a group, I think they look at the players and they're like, you all aren't powerful enough to make the moves that we make. You're just not. I'm sorry.
You know who is powerful? The one that's going to be powerful enough to make this move, if it really needs to be made, is the Swifties. Because if they want Travis Kelce to get the best care for her man, they will make sure that they get that place upgraded. They will hit up Clark Hunt. He needs to worry more about the Swifties than this grade right here. Because if they catch wind of this, the Swifties are going to go nuts, Cole. They are going to come after him. And it is going to be a situation. It's going to be a situation that's going to be a total
surprise, motherfucker.
Now,
Let me talk to you.
If you're Clark Hunt, you definitely need to.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
Because right now, you are the second-rated dumpster pelican on this list when it comes to health care facilities.
Oh, Lord. So basically what you're saying to be Swifties are going to Clark Hunt and they're basically vocalizing,
let's get ready to rumble.
Shout out to you, Sting. Lord have mercy. Sensei is a Swiftie? No, he's not a Swiftie.
I didn't say I was a Swiftie. I'm just trying to give you.
just-
I'm bringing the case for the Swifties to freak out because it's going to come. It's going to come.
No, he's not a Swiftie. He's not a Swiftie. I agree with you. I just think that it's going to have to take, and in that case that you just brought forth, it's going to have to take an entity much stronger than the NFLPA. And whether we all like it or not, the Swifties are. They just are.
Between this and our final topic, I figured it was the best opportunity for me to drop that bombshell.
I know. I caught the not so subtle hint. Yes, I got that.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
And speaking of Swifties and speaking of the Kelces, well, it's not so sad for the Swifties, but for the Kelce family, it is. Because Jason is calling it a career. The 6-time All-Pro Eagles center held a news conference yesterday afternoon to tearfully announce his retirement, a move that really has been expected ever since January when the Eagles season ended in Tampa. The 36-year-old leaves the NFL after 13 seasons, all of them with the Eagles, marked by dependability, availability, consistency, and cerebral exceptional play. Goodness gracious, my tongue wants to be handcuffed. Kelce was selected to 7 Pro Bowls in his career, including the most recent 5, and his 6 first All-Pro nominations came over the final 7 seasons of his career. And he is also the first and only center in the merger era, so that starts 1970 till now, to have won a Super Bowl and been first team All-Pro 6 times. No other center has done that. So to me, that is first ballot Hall of Fame worthy. What is Jason Kelce's legacy on the Eagles and the National Football League?
Most durable center of all time, and most impactful center, playing in 193 games, starting in every single one of them. 193 games played and started. Coming into training camp in his first year, would Andy Reid have predicted Jason Kelce to do what he did to the T of what he did? Probably not. But he knew that this guy was going to be special, which is why he drafted him. And then, 2 years later, when he was in a new place in Kansas City, drafted his brother as a tight end. Right. So, a very special story when it comes to Andy Reid and the triangle effect between both Kelce brothers here. And, for Kelce to spend all 13 seasons in the same place, it's hard to spend an entire career with one franchise that spans over a decade. You have to be very successful in order to stay with the same franchise for as long as what Jason Kelce has done. But when you look at what he's done during that time frame, before he even got to in the NFL, his work over there in Cincinnati, the college Cincinnati, with two-time second team all Big East selections, that's what helped him get noticed, to where once he got to the Eagles, he definitely made his mark. And, starting off in that training camp, that first training camp before that season, Kelce definitely made that impact. And unfortunately, it wasn't enough. And with what they had at that time with Michael Vick and the pieces around them on offense to keep Andy Reid in Philadelphia, because, the Eagles got one championship in the past decade. Imagine if Andy Reid had been able to establish what he's established with the Kansas City Chiefs, even though he was with the Eagles for over a decade and had the time to do it. He did make some moves, and with McNabb and all that, you saw all the NFC championships that they went to, winning one and then going to the Super Bowl and losing. But it's sad for us to think that had Andy Reid been able to stay in Philadelphia, Jason Kelce would have more than just one ring right now. He would have more than one, because it's been a proven fact of what Andy Reid has done is he's gotten 3 rings in his time with Kansas City, as to where Jason Kelce got one with Doug Peterson back, 6-7 years ago? I think it was 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. So looking at this in hindsight, I think that, and Cool McCain said, we fired the Big Red. Yes, he wasn't the Big Red Walrus back then. He definitely was not back then. But looking at everything as a whole, Kelce had a great career. I would have loved to have had him on my team. I know you would have loved to have him on your team, because he is the anchor of that offensive line, not just the guy that hikes the ball back, but he is the one that basically is the glue that holds the line together. He is also, a big part of why we have Travis Kelce in the NFL, because he wouldn't have even had the college career he had without his brother Jason stepping in and sticking up for him in order to get that last chance, or the second chance, or whatever you want to call it, to be able to perform in college, to be able to get to the NFL. So Jason Kelce is responsible for not only one Hall of Fame career in his own, but his brothers too. 2 Hall of Fame careers. Definitely deserved his flowers, deserved every bit of that 48-minute press conference yesterday. There were parts of it that were tough to watch because of how emotional he got, but I loved how raw and how real it was, because he gave you everything, left it all out on there on the field when he played. Just like I told you when we were talking yesterday through chat, I said he left it all out in the field, but he also left it all out in his speech too. So he was name dropping players of the past, like Brent Selleck, and what his accomplishments were towards that Super Bowl, his contributions towards that Super Bowl. He even name dropped Chip Kelly, which when it comes to the Eagles, his name hasn't been brought up that much over the past 5, 6, 7 years. So that was the nicest that somebody has brought Chip Kelly's name up in a way, and Jason Kelce being the one to do that in his retirement speech. Then you think about Andy Reid, how much he meant to him, like how he teared up talking about him and his dad sitting there on draft day when he was drafted to the Eagles, and then 2 years later when they were balling when Travis got drafted to the Chiefs when Andy Reid was there. Again, big pivotal point there with Andy Reid and the Kelce's right there. But his legacy with the Eagles will be one, greatest center in the franchise's history, if not in NFL history, but definitely the greatest center in Eagles history. Definitely will be a part of their Ring of Honor. Will have his number retired at some point. He will be in the NFL. Both Kelce brothers will be in the NFL. I mean, the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What I mean,
Pro Football Hall of Fame. Yeah.
They will be there in the Hall of Fame at some point, but unfortunately, you have to retire and wait 5 years to get to that point. In the next half decade, before this decade is over, we will be hearing that call to Ken for Jason Kelce.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved the fact that he, talking about Jason, really loved being in the trenches. He actually loved being in the center of it all. And I appreciate it, considering that I was a left guard when I played. There's a joy to the sport. And there's a lot of pain and heartache in the sport too. And it is a grind. And dare say I think it's more of a grind to be in the trenches than any other place in terms of playing. Possibly for the exception of running backs who get the ball a lot and the QBs who simply just get teed off on. But being in the center of it all, that you know that you have the biggest hand in influencing the wins and losses of a team because of assignments that you make or assignments that you miss. It is enthralling. And to add to it, the dude shows that he's intelligent and he's not the stereotypical how it used to be when we were both young. Because I know you heard it when you were young and I heard it when I was young, that basically, offensive linemen aren't considered the sharpest tools in the shed, but I'm like, not so much. And he proves that you have to be really on it. Even though he's a center, he proved that you have to be really on it to be on it and to be tough and durable and resilient. Because I don't know if you watched I think it's Amazon Prime documentary Kelce. If you haven't seen it, you love it, bro. It talks about both Travis and Jason, and this was before this past year, where he actually flirted with retirement last year in the offseason. And before he decided to say, okay, I'm gonna walk on the field for this past year, he was listing all the injuries that he had from his shoulders down to his feet and all points in between. And it just shows how much of a grind it is to be a center. And he was like, I'm willing to go through this. I'm willing to go through the pain because I love the sport that much. And I'm getting the love from my peers and the respect from the peers. I might as well do this because I think I'm the best at it. And he was.
And you saw him move around at the end of his speech yesterday. That was a clear sign to me that even though he's still playing at a high level, you can see the effects of him and all of those years in the NFL are starting to take toll. Mm-hmm. And it's at the very, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look at the part where he's starting to hug his mom. And then Travis kiss his wife, they hug his dad. You can see him walking down. You can see like he's not like a spring chicken anymore. He's not 10 years younger. So even though he's thinking to himself, yeah, I probably could get another year or two out of this and do it, what's my life going to be like 20 years from now after going an extra 2 years in the trenches when I should have hung up the cleats? And he made the right move, in my opinion.
I think he did too. I think he did too. And the retirement speech was emblematic of him as a player. He was one where when you listened to him, you had no choice but to listen to him. He was the type of player that commanded your attention no matter what. And he was willing to give it his all and leave it on the field. There was no doubt whatsoever. I'm not even an Eagles fan, and I can tell you, dude left it all on the field.
Yeah, he did.
He made sure that he exhausted every single ounce of energy he had for that particular game, every single game he played. And all you could do as a non-Eagles fan is respect that. As an Eagles fan, I'm sure that you love it, and you should. And of course, he's always going to be beloved because of his Super Bowl championship speech, which I think is one of the best I've ever heard. Because I just laugh at the fact the dude looked like a pope when he did it. But hey, celebrate how you celebrate. I ain't gonna hate on it. Latina says, look, I think Taylor Swift thinks she's above Travis Kelce, and it would be easy for her to dump him if she felt he didn't behave. Well, that might be true.
It could, but Travis is in a good place right now. He's in a good place, and not because she has money, but because they're having fun. Okay, and she's on her tour. They get to go to different countries. He gets to see different things in the world. There's different opportunities at bay. I think that from what it seems like with the type of person Travis Kelce is outside of the game of football, if she can't make it work with this dude, she is going to be one of those things, a spinner or whatever it is that you live by yourself for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I'll say it for you. She's going to be that woman at 40. Forget 50, 60, 70. She'll be that woman at 40 where she has 100 rocking chairs and 1,000 cats. And she'll be looking for companionship with the cats. These boys ain't nothing, but you all are nice. Oh, yeah, you all give me love, but the boys suck. Yeah. If she can't make it work with Travis, she's going to become a cat woman. And I don't mean in the Batman series neither.
Yeah, that next album could be a complete love album.
Yeah, she says she's always writing songs about how she's always the victim. Yeah, like I said, I think if the relationship between her and Travis ends, expect that to be a whole album.
We'll see how truthful what you just said, Latina, in that statement. We'll see how truthful that is. If, in fact, they ever do break up, because, if they do break up, she's going to use something from that to fuel the fire. And if she's playing the victim again, then we know it's going to be the seamless whole Taylor Woe that will never end. Taylor Woe from Taylor Swift.
Mm-hmm. Playmaker says, good. I'm glad you're not a Swiftie, Sensei Drew. But that did kill my vibe. I'm like, wow, that's cold, bro.
Because of the health, that's something I was talking about. The upgrade of the facilities. It was a report card grade.
Yeah. Latina says, swiftness? That sounds like a brain dead zombie. Or Swifties. Swifties are like brain dead zombies. I'm sorry. She says you should clip the Hose Mad song. All right. Clip the Hose Mad song. Lord have mercy. Dante says, good, great. For those who don't know, Dante is an Eagles fan. He says, great day for the Eagles. Kelce's on his way to get his well-deserved gold jacket in 2029. I was going to say, no, I take that back. 4, 5, 6, 7. 2028.
Yeah, he can get it 2029 because it'd be 2024. It's 5 seasons after, so 4, 5, 6, 7.
He might get in 8.
Yeah,
he might get in 8.
No. He'd have to get it in 29 because you have to be out 2024, 25, 26, 27, and 28. You would be eligible.
So you got to be okay. Yeah, okay.
You have to be out 5 complete seasons. Yeah, so that's why Patrick Willis was eligible this year because he last played in 2018. So with him, that's when he retired. So that's why he was eligible this year for the Hall.
So you have to be out 5 full. Got it. Okay, so yeah, 2029. you should if you can make it up to Canton, because dude is going to be a Hall of Famer by then. He's going to get his gold jacket then, and if he doesn't, it's a crime, because he's a credit to the game. I don't care what you say to me. I love Jason Kelce. Just as a football player, I love the guy. He says, I remember the year we drafted Nelson. We played Washington for the first time that year and lost. And we played Washington the first time that season and lost at the Eagles versus section at the at FedEx. The fans booed everyone except Kelce. How could you boo the guy? I mean, he's a lovable guy. I mean, and he plays the game the way you wanted to play it. It's just hard to boo the guy. I mean, it really is. It's really difficult to boo him. Cool says, we fired the big red walrus. Well, he was the big Kelly Green walrus when you rooted for him. Cool.
It threw me off in my take. I laughed as soon as I first saw your comment pop up. I'm like, I'm trying to talk about it, and I see him pop up with we fired the big red walrus, and I'm laughing in my head, and I was trying to compose myself while talking. You did that to me, Cool McCain, but I still love you, brother.
Yeah, you rooted for the Kelly Green walrus, though, bro. But his next comment made me laugh. He says, and he hasn't won without Patty Mayo, aka Patrick Mahomes. I'm like, Lord, why? And the refs. What did I say earlier?
Here we go with the Bradbury call in the end zone again. Oh my God, I'm never gonna hear the end of that.
The latest dynasty is all due to the referees wanting the Chiefs to win. Anyway, Dante says, I remember Andy's last 2 years in Philly were disasters. The O-line coach, the defense coordinator, he made a lot of bad decisions, and him going to KC was humbling, which it probably was, really.
Yeah, that's spot on, Dante. That Cool McCain was to throw it at the refs. Dante brings facts. That's the difference between these two Eagles elite fans right here. Dante, the Cool McCain, I think you need to reach out to Dante and have him on your Eagles Elite podcast at some point there, brother. That's a plug to plug me. If you need me to intercept to help you guys make this happen, let's make this happen. Dante's got great takes. I mean, there's Cool and I, we got great love that we will share back and forth between the rivalry between Washington and Philadelphia. But Dante, I only met him that one time. Putting that TV up in his house felt like I met a long lost friend, because you can have friends in rivalries, but the difference maker is having someone that's got the knowledge of the game. It isn't just like, your team sucks. I hate your team because you're in the division. No, he actually brought facts to the table. It was like, yeah, the Eagles are good right now, because when I met Dante, the Eagles were climbing the mountain at that point in time. So he brings it. He'll tell you like it is. That's why Dante is one of my favorite Eagles fans. Shout out to Dante.
I'll tell you, I think what probably did him in Philly, Dante, the fact that he had success with Michael Vick and everything was looking really good, then all of a sudden the wheels really started to fall off real fast with him. And I think when you had that happen, everything else fell. And then you had players like Deshaun Jackson, who talent beyond talent, but sometimes the head wasn't screwed on straight when it came to playing. I'm like, good God, you have such talent, dude. And he couldn't stay on the field. So I think you had those elements that were in play. And then I think probably Andy was sort of tired of being there, I think. And and it just led to the downward trajectory that, I think him going to the Chiefs was humbling. And then he lucks in them homes, and look at him now. Bon power to him, though. Latina says, should a man value a famous singer like Taylor, or a woman that can produce babies, breastfeed them, or at least care for them, cook, clean, and honor them more?
Let's hold up. There's a lot of situations out there. There's a lot of females out there that can't bear children. Okay. We don't know that to be the case here. All right. So regardless of whether you are famous and you are a singer and you're out there touring the world or whatever, and you're waiting to have kids till maybe in your last 2 to 3 years of your 30s or not, which could be what Taylor's doing. Who knows? Who knows what her exact plan is? I haven't read her memoir. I'm not a Swiftie. I don't know. But what I can tell you is that the ultimate goal, I wouldn't say the ultimate goal, but the number one thing a woman needs to do is not what you just put there as far as having kids and all that stuff. Taylor Swift has been part of the music scene for nearly 20 years now, going on 20 years. I mean,
that's crazy.
Another 2 or 3 years from now, we'll be able to say 20 years. I mean, it's pretty close. It's like 16, 17 years at this point.
Yeah.
So, she has set records and all that. And if that's what her ultimate goal is, both her and Travis have goals in their own professions right now. Her in music and him in football. And we know he at least has one more year left, maybe 2, maybe 3. But I don't think outside of 3 years he's going to stay. I think 1, maybe 2, and that's it. Definitely the 1 because they're going to go for the 3-peat. But if you look at Travis's numbers this past year, they fell. They were not what Travis Kelce is used to having. He was under 1,000 yards for the first time in his career, or not the first time in his career, but throughout his entirety of his career. So, since early on in his career, not the first time in his overall career, but you know what I'm saying. But looking at this right here, I mean, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, yeah, it's a big hyped up relationship, but I'm looking at the overall numbers. He was only 16 yards under 1,000 yards, but the fact they both have goals, they want to attain them. It takes a couple of years anyway for you to really get to know somebody nowadays, the way things are going. So, and especially the way that they live their life, it might take them an additional year to get to know each other because of how much time they are apart doing their own thing. So, because they're both driven to succeed and to excel in their professions, it's probably the best thing for them right now to do their own thing and get together when they can. But I'm not going to throw the whole traditional 1950s style of living in America and compare that to them two, because that's not what their life is about. They have 2 lives that are not normal compared to myself, Cole, you, Latina, or anybody else in this chat. It's kind of hard for us to sit here and say the traditional lifestyle between babies and families and cooking and cleaning when it comes to those 2.
Yeah. Travis and Jason have no. Travis doesn't have any children. Jason has 3. He has 3 daughters. So yeah, he has 3 daughters, and he's married to a wonderful woman. Kylie is her name, and she's a hardcore Eagles fan. And this is why I'll forever love Kylie. When the Chiefs had their run this past year, no, I'm sorry to take back. When the Chiefs had their run last year, and Jason was going to Arrowhead. Kylie was like, do I have to put on Chiefs gear? Because I'm not a Chiefs fan. I'm not going to root for the Chiefs. Forget that. And so she, of course, went to Cincinnati like both the Kelce brothers did. And so to support them, she wore a Cincinnati Bearcats red sweater, but was not going to put on any Chiefs gear at all, and still didn't. So I will always love Kylie Kelce, because she reps her man and she reps her team. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Cool says Jason should be on someone's network. Jason, I think, was interviewed. I can't remember who. I want to say it was Fox. I think Fox interviewed him for a position to be on someone's network. So I could see him doing that in the fall. And if so, he has a lot to contribute. Latina says, I don't understand how these men aren't making at least 6 children. Well, one of them's halfway there. So there you go. Cool says, I agree. It was the right move, but he will be mad. Oh gosh. I think who will miss him the most will be Mr. Hurts. Jalen's going to miss Jason severely, because I think he's going to have to find a way to get chemistry with his center quickly, because if the Eagles think or fancy themselves to be a power in the East with the 49ers, the Cowboys, the resurgent Packers, and now the Lions, they're going to have to get that fixed quick, fast, and hurry. And if it isn't, they're going to languish in mediocrity for at least another couple of years before that becomes a non-issue. But until then, the amount of ease that he had and the amount of trust that he had built with Kelce in front of him, he's going to have to rebuild that with another center. And that's not going to be easy. Dante says, the Eagle Bear is so blessed for the run of players, Jason Fletcher, Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson, so many years, great memories, but at least Kelce got a ring. Yeah. Not only got a ring, he actually had a chance to get a second. So, yeah, you're right, man. Latina says, J-Lo could not make any relationship work either. They're brain damaged from the narcissism. Wow. She says, she goes on to say she would have to retire to keep a man. I'm not so sure about good Lord, Taylor. I'm not sure she has to retire all the way. She may scale back, and I think she will, considering, I mean, Chick now is a billionaire. So now she doesn't need to go on tours. Now she could do it because she loves it. But she can have like a full year where she doesn't even think about recording, and
she can shake it off.
Cool says, I'll be there when he gets it. I'll be there when he gets it. Yeah. He says also, let's not forget that there was not a holding penalty on the offensive line in either of their 3 Super Bowls they won against KC. Fact enough for you? Well, that poorest offensive line against the Bucs, I think, didn't suffer from a penalty either, but they couldn't stop any pass rusher that day. But I digress. The Playmaker says Saquon Barkley to be a free agent. Josh Jacobs also. Yeah, I saw that. All I gotta say to that is not surprised from both. I think this actually lends itself to what we were talking about earlier. The NFL does not value running backs. They will ride the rookie contracts of these backs, but when they want the veteran money, they will ride them on franchise tags and 1-year contracts. And if they smell a sign that these backs want to have, like they should, like they're seeing with every other position on the field, multi-year contracts with their first veteran contract, that's the time when the teams are like, no, we're not gonna give it to you. Oh, I'm sorry. Memo to Adrian Peterson. The reason why no team is picking you up, sir, is because you're old. And the fact that they really don't like the fact that you put the switch to a child's behind. Oh, my bad. I digress. All right. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that message real fast, but it had to come real quick. Cool says, if you look it up, they were the top 5 of holding penalties called in regular season those years. Latina says, Taylor making Travis some extra money with her fame, but her eggs are definitely going to be old and dust soon. Well, no debating biology.
What if she froze him, Latina? Talk about science. You would talk about not debating it. I'll debate it. What if she froze him? What if she froze him, Latina? And give her a break. Give her a break. She's a bajillionaire. She can freeze them, build science, take science, have them put in her at age 42 and have a baby at 42 years old.
And yes, Latina, Taylor turned 34 in December. Yeah. And I think Travis also is 34. She says, oh no, Jason only has 3 daughters. Well, hey. I said he's halfway there. And it looks like knowing him, I don't think he and Kylie are done. I think he wants a son. I personally think he does. Dante says, look, Jason is actually working for the Eagles. We don't know what position. Okay. So it might be a consultant for the team. I didn't know that. No. Latina says, Jason has high probability of making another baby girl due to his stats. Maybe. Dante says, look, I disagree. Kerm Jurgen is already in year 3. Landon Dickinson is about to get a lot more credit than people give him. Now, Landon's the best lineman on the team right now, yes, including Lane. Just wait. And T's enjoying this conversation. She says, have you connected your YouTube to simulcast on Rumble? I hear they start paying content creators really quick. Oh, all right. Well, thank you for that tip. Thank you.
Yeah, I need to get on that then.
Yeah, I do too. And she says, frozen eggs? They aren't as fresh eggs. Well, yeah, that applies to both the supermarket and women. You're correct. You're correct, ma'am.
I guess if we're comparing food to humans, go ahead.
Gosh. And Cool says Jurgens is going to be a solid center. I'm not debating that. My issue is how fast can the chemistry between now Jurgens and Hurts happen? That's where I am. You got to, believe me, playing on the line myself, there's a chemistry you got to build with the quarterback from the center. And if you don't, and the sooner you build it, the better your team performs. But the more you languish in trying to build that chemistry, the worse your offense is. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. And I'm not talking about being an analyst in the NFL. I mean, I've seen it on a team I played on. So that's why I say that. But yeah, if they can get the chemistry down soon and quick, you're good. And there won't be an adjustment period. But if there's an adjustment that's necessary, well, that's going to be the issue. But we don't have any more issues here, I don't think. Do we? No. Yeah.
Till next week.
You're right. Till next week.
Total Football Talk.
We know it's March, but it is time for the Snowflake of the Week. And for his Drew, who is your snowflake, sir?
Cole McCain, you are my snowflake of the week.
Why?
Because it started this way and it's going to end this way. You had to bring the refs into the equation again. It has been over a year. It's been over the year. You need to let it go. No, look at what Dante did. Dante was good. Dante behaved. Dante always behaves. Dante doesn't throw excuses. Cole McCain, you threw excuses. Also, I watched the new episode 2 of Eagles Elite Podcast last week, 5 days ago. I forgot to subscribe, but I subscribed today. You can see Sartoba Media subscribe to your channel today. Go ahead and resubscribe to Sartoba and check out the latest content. You being my snowflake this week is why I'm going to have to say because of the refs, for one. But also, Cole McCain, you know why you're a snowflake? Because of the refs? You're a snowflake because of your past episode. You only played one commercial. You played one commercial the entire show. And you know what that commercial was? The longest commercial I've ever seen in my life. The Sam Shady commercial. The commercial that's like 3 minutes long. It tells us a story. It's like an episode within an episode. It's still a good program, still a good show. Good job, Shady Sports Network. But you got to shorten that commercial just a little bit. Share the airtime. Cole McCain. Help us all out. Give us a commercial. You have our commercials. We play your commercial. Share the wealth. I share all of your wealth on my channel each and every episode. That is fair. Yes, it is. Snowflake is fair because of the ref call. That's one. I'm just being a little extra funny in this point when talking about a 3-minute commercial. You need to look back at this episode and see what I'm talking about. We can have a class. We can have some type of discussion one-on-one and help you figure this out. What do you not? What are you talking about? What do you don't, sir? I'm confused. This is why you're the snowflake of the week. Cool.
And he says, you are his snowflake every week. I was done when he said that. I'm like, oh, Lord. In fact, oh, Lord. Wow.
Yeah, we did get carried away.
Mhm. Yes. Goodness gracious. Okay. Well, the snowflake I have for this week has nothing to do with the tribe, so you don't have to worry about that. Goodness gracious. Tyreek Hill, you need to get your head out of your behind. Come on, man. You can hide behind the, well, it's not really what I meant to do. My father told me this lesson about women, and I say this to any and all men within earshot of me. Your job on this earth is to protect every woman you see, not just the one you want to have babies with, not just the one you want to wife up, and not just the one that comes from her loins. No, and not just the one that you came out of the loins of. Meaning, it's not just your wife, your mother, your daughter, or your sister that you have to protect. You got to protect every single woman. Because it's hard enough for them to live on this planet, having to defend themselves from you too. It makes it even worse. So be advocates of women, not terrors of them. And unfortunately, that is what you have been, whether this is alleged or real. Come on, dude. You got to do better than that. You got to think better than that. You just have to be better than that. And you're not a spring chicken anymore. And you can't be playing tackle football with women like you're playing tackle football with elite NFL players, man. You know better than that, Cheetah. Come on, dude. Come on.
Total football talk.
As long as it's one. Oh, that's great.
And now it is time for the post game. This is where we give our take on the week that has been. And for his post game, Drew, the floor is yours.
Another fun-filled episode we have had this week. Thank you all who have been tuning in. Those of you who have been commenting throughout the show, we definitely appreciate it. Cool McCain, I was giving you a hard time, but it's all in the game of fun and love there, my man. So glad we could have that here on today's episode. Along with Latina and Callie, thank you for tuning in as well today. Definitely a nice big old
surprise, motherfucker.
When I saw you jump up in here today, that was nice. Sick Diggy, you, Cool McCain. Who else? We had Dante. Dante was another huge contributor today. Those of you all who are contributing to the comments, thank you so much, because it definitely it helps keep the flow of the show going. We had Mick and Ike and Snowman show up. But for those of you, and also Playmaker was definitely big today within the comments. So thank you guys too. Also Playmaker, I had already done it on my personal channels, but Sertoba, my YouTube channel, had just subscribed to your YouTube channel today, because I mainly watch your stuff on Facebook, but I just subscribed to your YouTube. So if you want to make that full circle, come on back. Holla back now, my man. But anyway, when it comes to football, I'm mainly excited about what we're going to see here in about 3 weeks with the UFL. It starts the week before WrestleMania, and The Rock is part of the UFL. So I'm getting hyped for spring football. We got next week where we talk about the last 8 teams that we're going to grade in the NFL, to where we're going to be closing that chapter on at least the 2023 season, and start getting ready towards doing like we've been doing with the other topics, talking about, free agency, potential moves, the draft, all that's coming up. But a good portion of our coverage will be coming up will be spring football. So getting ready to cover some UFL, some CFL in the near future as well after that. Kind of expanding our horizons when it comes to football discussions on this show. Looking forward to keeping that going. My man Cole here. It's been a fun-filled 27 episodes, but for those of you who continuously show up each and every Tuesday, whether it's one of you, 10 of you, 100 of you, doesn't matter. Just glad to have you here for the fun and the shenanigans on these discussions of football. So thank you all for taking the time. I greatly appreciate it. I know Cole does as well. Look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, here on Total Football Talk. Comey Media, Stratoba Media, combined for your action right here when it comes to Total Football Talk.
Nice, man. Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. So we are 1 week away from the NFL going through its new year / free agency period. We are 3+ weeks away from the UFL beginning. And I'm reminded of the fact that people were talking about sports that seem to have a lasting impact, and other sports don't seem to have that lasting impact all year round like football does. I mean, with baseball, you have people who want to pay attention. They do in the spring, but normally they start paying attention as a casual side in the summer. But their season, you almost are paying attention to it now because they're in spring training, but you sort of have a side eye to it with as other sports you're dealing with. But you pretty much forget that baseball exists from the time we get to Veterans Day onto when pitchers and catchers report 3 months later. Basketball, you're not really talking about it year round until and you really don't start talking about basketball until probably training camp, which is latter part of September. And once the season ends in June, you talk a little bit about it because you got the awards at the end of the season. You have the draft that's basically starts the summer, and the free agent period that starts probably the week after. But most of July, all of August, and most of September, you're not really talking about basketball unless it's about LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. But I digress. And hockey, and then there's football. And here we are in the first full month of the NFL offseason, and we're talking huge about the NFL. And next month will be the second full month that we're out of football, and we'll talk huge there because we'll have a lot of pro days, and we'll have NFL draft speculations and the NFL draft itself. Every other professional league is doing what the NFL what the NFL has succeeded in doing, which is have you talk about their league every day, all year long. And every other league is playing catch-up ball. And it's a pleasure to do it here. So as we see these free agents that are cropping up, and Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley and Russell Wilson, which we didn't touch on purpose because we're going to do that next week, I am reminded that you have a rich product that's getting richer because it is a wonderful product to enjoy. And it's a great time to actually talk about it. And we get to talk about the UFL all from the spring into the summer, and then you got the CFL to pick up all the way until when training camp begins for the NFL again. But the beauty of it all is professional football is the sport to follow throughout all of the sports landscape. Every other entity in sports, especially in North America, is playing catch up to it. So enjoy, because I know I am. And although we're not talking about the games that are on the field, the games off the field seem to be just as enthralling as the ones that happen on the gridiron. So just come along with us, because we're going to be enjoying the ride for the weeks and the months to come.
As long as it's one. Oh, that's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
All right, sir. It seems as though he loves speaking. Oh, there we go.
You know, I was just thinking to myself as you were giving your great speech right there with the closing thoughts, and how you like to sing. And I'm not good at singing, okay? Even though in the picture that's up there, that I'll do some rearrange so you guys see the picture again, later. But I want to move my camera angle so you get more close up version of me, this ugly mug right here, and this camera right here. But back to what Cole was saying. I'm thinking about coming along for this journey in the months to come. Takes me to that song with "Come on, ride a train, get you right here." Yeah, I'm thinking, ride a train, old school song, ride the train together as we are on this journey.
Ride the train and run it. It's the choo choo.
Yeah, choo choo.
Oh my!
It's choo choo. Internet with shenanigans. That's how I love it, because you know that there is no
surprise, motherfucker.
When it comes to the things that come out of my mouth.
Lord have mercy. Choo-choo, right on that choo-choo. Oh, Lord, why?
And I got a special message. I'm going to send this to you on Facebook Messenger there.
Oh, Lord.
I'm disappointed in you for not showing up today.
Yeah, I know, because we didn't get a chance to unveil in full. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tyrone Alizé McDummy singing his prize hit, Where Them Boys.
Hey!
Oh, screw it.
Delete! 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 Delete!
And we all know that.
You like that? You like that?
Yes, we do. Lord have mercy. To reach Drew, all you have to do is go on his many social media handles, Sotoba_media on Twitter, Sotoba_media on Instagram, at _Sertoba on TikTok, and other places as well. And of course, YouTube is at Sertoba Media. And for yours truly, you can reach me on floco.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That's floco.com/page/host Cole Johnson.
Hold up. Did I
What
just get
now?
called a Drew Flake? What is that?
Yes.
If I'm a Drew Flake, then you're a cool stool. And that's not what you sit on. It's what comes out of you.
Okay, well, you all have this debate with each other. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And thank you for hitting that notification bell so you can catch all content that emanates from the Sertoba Media YouTube channel and or the Coleman Media YouTube channel. Goodness gracious. Why cool? For Drew Willingham, I'm Cole Johnson, here to say, imparting as we always do. In life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows.
And as always, stay safe out here in these streets.
See you next week, and good Lord. If Drew calls cool again a snowflake, goodness gracious.